Welcome to Bourbon Sauce, where we discuss topics and get sauced on bourbon in the process. Grab your favorite bourbon and join us for the show. This week we have two guest speakers: Special Forces sniper Trey and career infantryman Jackson. Hang on to your seats. This should get interesting. Before we get into it, guys, which bourbon are you sitting on? Trey, why don't you tell us what you're drinking?
All right, I got Horse Soldier right now, and I really enjoy it. I appreciate those guys that actually did it. I've met some of them and worked with all three of
Nice.
them.
And Jackson, what do you got over there?
Oh, well, I heard Matt was going to drink my favorite bourbon today and try it out. So I had to do something different. So I did the High West, and it's out of Park City, Utah. It's a bourbon. It's not bad. It's a blend of
Which High
straight
West
bourbon
is it? Because I
whiskeys.
know they got like three or four different types.
The one that says High West bourbon on it, because I saw the rye and then the whiskeys, but it was bourbon sauce. So I figured I'd get the bourbon one.
Perfect.
No, and if I had to loser here, but if I had a choice, I would like kind of my go-to all time is just number 7 Jack Daniels.
Ah, that's a good one. That's a good choice. Ryan, what are you drinking over there?
Sipping on some Bighorn bourbon whiskey from Willie's Distillery out in Wyoming. Or actually, I think it's in Montana. Yeah, but
Enos,
Did you say
Enos,
penis,
Montana.
Montana?
Enos.
Oh, Enos.
Enos.
Okay.
No,
Enos.
Enos.
No penis.
No, it's Enos like anus, but it's no A.
No,
Well, that's why Jackson lives there, right?
Exactly.
Because there's
Yeah,
a lot of
Enos.
penis. I
Yeah.
mean, anus.
Right.
Well, I wasn't
Yeah.
sure.
See, he's in Wyoming. He's across the border. But I gotta say, this is the first bourbon he's recommended that I've enjoyed.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, he's only ever recommended one other, and it was Four Roses bottom shelf twist top style.
Oh, okay.
And it was right up there with. It was just a step above the Fighting Cock, in my opinion.
Yeah, that
But this Bighorn bourbon whiskey, I
not bad, huh?
I definitely can see me drinking on this.
Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna have to import another bottle, and we'll get stock of it.
I know,
It's
there's
very
some,
smooth.
There's some good ones in here too.
It's
Yeah.
very smooth.
Myself, I'm
Love
doing
an
the
Eagle Rare.
Yeah, the Eagle Rare is really good. Myself, I'm doing the Kentucky Owl, the confiscated. It's one of the sweetest, tastiest bourbons I've had in a long time.
That shit's dangerous.
Yeah, and it is dangerous. You're gonna have to after that one. I promise. We'll pour you some. It's really good. But hey, Trey, Jackson, thank you guys for joining us. We're honored to have you both on our show. We can't wait to hear some of your input on today's topics. While we got you guys, I'd like to get some of our listeners a glimpse into your lives as far as what you guys did, and then we're going to redirect and we're going to talk about guns. And in today's episode, it's going to be called Half Cocked and Definitely Loaded. So, in the spirit of those things, Trey, I have some really good questions for you,
Send it, bud.
and I'm looking forward to your answers.
Cool.
So, how long have you been in SOF?
Essentially my entire career, unless you take out the first 2 years that I was in the pipeline of like trying to be a SF guy. So call it 14 years. 14 years.
Okay, and did you come in the traditional way where you became an enlisted guy and went to infantry and then came in, or did you go a different route?
I actually took a different route. I went. I was in Naval ROTC in college. Went to North Carolina State University, and then through that, I met some Army guys that were in ROTC as well, and then found out that there was the 18 X-ray program, so I could enlist right into the SOF community, and so went through, graduated college, and then didn't take my commission and just enlisted in the Army.
So you did the 18 X-ray and just said fuck it, full send.
So
Yeah,
that's kind of like high school to flight school kind of thing.
Pretty much, and I would say, besides the silly pilots, like they were ROTC instructors, it's a job that you do. It's like this pilot, when I told him that I wasn't going to take my commission, he flopped down on a couch like a loser. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Well, some of the other opposition that I got was actually my parents, and because they thought that like the prestigious point of the Naval Academy or Navy, whatever, it was something good. And so they tried to they did get me in front of one of the guys that was local. He was a special forces colonel. And so they thought that me sitting down in front of him with them, he was going to dissuade me from doing that. At the end of the day, he was like, "Oh no, Trey knows what he's talking about. It's a great profession. He should do it."
Perfect. That's good. So, what is your designation? 18 what?
Yep. Currently, I'm an 18 Bravo.
Okay.
It's like a weapons sergeant.
Okay. And what does that entail exactly?
So generally, you're you're responsible for obviously all the weapons that are on the team, outfitting of guys. But generally speaking, it's more of like we call it an S3 function or an operations function. So with all the training and the things that we do for ourselves and then whoever we're doing it with.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Did you get to pick your language? Did you get to pick your designation? How did that work for you?
Yeah. So sort of is the answer to that.
Okay.
So you have to have a certain intelligence level. There's this Army test that it's.
So it's an aptitude thing.
It's an aptitude thing.
Is that the D Lab?
Yeah, it's like a D Lab or an ASVAB or something like
Mhm.
that. I don't know what it is. But either way, but at the time, it didn't really matter. I thought that I wanted to go to Arab countries. So I
Right.
was like, I want Arabic, which is something that they were looking for anyway.
Okay.
And so I got Arabic because I was able to do it. It's one of the harder languages to learn, like Chinese or Mandarin or something like that.
Yeah.
But I had the aptitude for it. So they're like, yeah, cool. You can do that. And then I also got 18 Bravo is generally one of the easier MOSs in
Mhm.
Special Forces, though, like as far as like getting the qualification for it.
Yeah.
Like Delta would take, Delta's a medic. That takes like a year,
Yeah.
where a Bravo takes 3 months, something like that. So call it that way. But either way, so I got the MOS that I wanted, and then because I had some version of aptitude, I was able to also get Arabic.
And how often have you been able to use that language? Have you used it pretty extensively, or?
So I don't know how far you guys want me to get.
Well, I
into
mean, you
this
know.
one. Like no, that's not about a security clearance or any of that
Yeah.
classified stuff. But I don't even know even if your listeners are gonna like this, but I actually really
This isn't for the listeners, so you can just go down the
Cool.
rabbit hole. It's
Cool.
cool. It's cool.
I actually really, really dislike knowing Arabic. And the funny thing is that I'm actually pretty good at it too.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And so when I go overseas, I use it all the time.
Okay.
And I'm one of probably the better speakers. And so the guys the foreign people, soldiers or whoever we're dealing with,
Mhm.
they generally kind of latch on to me just because I'm actually fairly decent about talking through this thing. There's a level we get tested every year, and the level goes from 0 to 3. 3 being someone that can speak in like a university level,
Mhm.
political level, right? And
Ching, ching.
and it comes with some money too.
Yeah, yeah.
However, it's a requirement. An SF guy, Army SF guy, has to have a language qualification.
Right. Yeah. Do they all have to be at a level 3, or is that just kind of preferred?
No, I believe the level is 1+ at the moment.
Okay.
I
So
believe
just
so.
if you can just barely speak it and get by like just day-to-day language, like, hey, where's the
You're like a
bathroom?
0
Where's
or
the
a 1.
weapons?
0
Where's
plus, and even all that stuff is actually pretty particular. So you'll be in that like 0+. They have pluses and minuses for
Okay.
all the numbers too.
What is it?
and
1
so-
plus 1 plus is like you can read it and write it and speak it.
Just
Or is it
listen and speak.
Listen and speak.
okay.
Well, that's the 1 plus, right?
Yeah, and so
But then
I'm
you
at
have
it
the
too.
other 1 plus. Is that?
So one's
the-
probably just listening,
Yeah.
and then the other
No,
one's writing.
No, they're both. It's listening and speaking.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
So the writing doesn't factor in at all.
not you have to take another specific test for that.
Okay.
Ah.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yep,
That's pretty cool.
So if you want to do that, then you can do that. You get paid for that thing too.
So how are you with writing Arabic? Do you write Arabic also? Or
Not at
no?
all.
Not
Not
at
at
all.
all.
So it's
Actually-
more just speaking and listening and
Yep.
and being able to
100%.
understand.
Yeah.
So that way you minimize that language barrier when you guys have to go in somewhere and you're doing operations somewhere.
So in my opinion, well, actually, it's not my opinion. It's been proven because, say for example, 7th group, they know Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they deployed to Afghanistan,
Which is weird.
so language is irrelevant.
Right.
Now, when I go over there to an Arabic country and I speak Arabic to them, a lot of times they're like, "Oh, that's great," and then they want to speak Arabic to me. But at the end of the day, you just generally either have an interpreter or you just go do that. And people that do war fighting generally know what you're talking
Yeah, most of us guys have been overseas. You normally know we have the pointy talkie, right?
Yep.
So
about. 100%.
that's like a default thing. for those of us that don't speak the native tongue. But it's good to know that you were able to pick up that language and you've been able to use it and you've been successful with it to be able to
Oh yeah.
do your job at a higher level.
Yeah, 100%.
What was your first impression when you arrived from the 18 X-ray program and you finished everything to your first group, your first battalion, or whatever it was that your first ODA? What was your first impression upon meeting those guys?
Yeah. So fortunately for me, it's kind of like fortunate, unfortunate. So I went to what we have a B team. It's a support team out of all the operational teams. So I went to that first. It's not the preferred technique, but that's how I did it. I had a really great team sergeant and some really good senior guys on the team. So my first impression was awesome. However, my experience was less than awesome.
Okay.
Because I spent pretty much that entire time, or a year and a half there, which you shouldn't have to do. And then when I actually got to an operational detachment, I had to stay back for more language school while they deployed, and did unilateral things as opposed to working with partner force. And so I really didn't have a great career until 2017, call it 2017. And I joined in 2007. So I didn't really have like the best time of my career until 10, 11 years later.
Interesting. So have you always been at 5th Group, or
except for 3 years from 2014 to 2017? Part of our job is you go be operational for a while and then you go instruct for a
so you go
portion
to
of time.
SWIC?
Yep. And so I went to SWIC, and so
Okay.
from 14 to 17, I taught at the level 1 sniper course, and which was pretty much renewed my love for the Army, if you want to say it that.
So why did you decide to go into the sniper, or when did you decide to go into the sniper school, like for yourself, to get the sniper tab?
Well, I mean, 2012 is when I went. When or why did I decide to? I don't know. I guess I just always wanted to be part of the guys that are like performance, and then there was the level 1 of things. The same reason there's an urban combat school called Sephardic, and the same reason I went to both those schools in 2012. It's like that same reason, or I just wanted to be the best, and that was the school for Special Forces guys, or Army Special Forces, or Green Berets. That's what it was. So I was like, I want to try and fight for that.
Okay. And then how hard was that to, one, get your leadership to say, yeah, we're on board, and then how hard was it to complete that school?
So to get them to say that they were on board, I think that can be different. For me, it wasn't that difficult.
Okay.
I did have to fight for the urban course. There was another guy that had that was signed up for the course, and either way, he was leaving the company, and I was like, well, if he's leaving, he's not going to be able to pass on that knowledge. So is it cool that I go and take it from him, essentially? And that made sense to my boss at the time. So that was cool. So I got that one. But as far as the sniper school, I did a lot of work back when I went in 2012. You had to shoot into it, which means you had to make a group with an AR or an M4. You had to make a sub-minute group with that. I think they were using 77 grain at the time, but it was with iron sights. So it was like you had to figure out how to shoot iron sights and shoot a sub-minute group.
And so for our listeners that don't know what that means, that's a quarter size grouping.
Correct. That's essentially bullets touching, whether you're at 25 or whether you're at 100 or 50. It's essentially bullets touching.
Yeah. And that's an amazing feat, especially if you have wind or anything else that you have to calculate for.
Well, at that distance, the wind and stuff doesn't really come into play, but it is still a thing where you keep your eye alignment based on what are the things that you're seeing, like the iron sights. Like those things make a difference.
Yeah.
And I practiced hundreds and hundreds and hundreds around with one of the horse soldiers. Probably shouldn't even be saying this because the range wasn't hot at the time. But either way, I practiced so much as 20 years or 10 years ago, so it doesn't matter. But
I was gonna say that's a decade ago.
Yeah, nobody's gonna know.
Yeah, she gone. But I practiced for hundreds of rounds. I mean, I wake up at 5
Were you a natural shooter, or was that something?
No.
Obviously, it sounds like you had to work at it.
I absolutely have to work at it. I know I didn't
Okay.
answer the question, but my father was a hunter.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know, probably was like 8 years old, something like that. My dad's not a good businessman, even though he's a contractor. And so at whatever point during that time, my mom was like, "Okay, we're selling the bass boat. You're selling all the guns, everything." So there's just flushed it all out. So I never really shot guns growing up.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then I get to college, and now I'm in this ROTC thing. I'm in potentially 18 X-ray thing after a couple years, and my buddy and his dad, they hunt all the time, they shoot all the time. So I didn't really start until I was probably 20 years old.
So how long from the time you got to an ODA till you actually got to deploy? How much time had passed from let's say the day you enlisted to the time you were actually allowed to deploy with an ODA? How much time had passed before that?
So it took 2 years to essentially the day, give or take, probably a week. But it took 2 years for me to enlist, start the whole process, and then deploy.
And then
get to a group.
Then you were with a group, and you actually got to go and do live combat somewhere. And
within 3 months of being.
And that was in Afghanistan or Iraq?
No, that was Iraq.
Okay, so your first deployment was in Iraq.
Yes, sir.
What was that like for you? Was it as shocking to you as most people? Because there's a cultural shock, and then there's the environmental shock. How was that for you? Was that?
So I actually thought there were a bunch of beautiful things.
Yeah.
Like I'd never seen the dust kind of just make things glow.
Mm-hmm.
So the environmental stuff was pretty chill. We were on a pretty big base in Kirkuk. The job was a little different because I was on that support team, like I said. So it wasn't as active as I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But I didn't get really shocked by it at all.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it was pretty decent living, to be honest.
Do you have any real funny moments from your first deployment that you can remember? That
Well, we had a hot tub.
you had a hot tub. How did you guys? First of all, how did you guys have a hot tub?
You know what? I'm just gonna say this before we even get down that rabbit hole.
Yep.
I've deployed enough with Insoft that if it's there, it's there.
I'm
You
just
used it,
saying,
and that's it.
I'm just saying, because
don't-
I remember back in the day we were there and we took over like Saddam's palaces and
Yeah.
shit like that. So it was a different time. But
Yeah, but that's a
Where-
giant pool in the house.
where
This is different.
did you guys build this hot tub or did you acquire the hot tub?
So I believe it was built. We didn't build it.
Okay.
And I would say it's probably more like a horse corral than anything else, or a horse like drinking station. But
Jackson,
then
we're gonna need you to send us one of those.
yeah. But then they just like hooked the tubes up to it and made it hot. You know what I mean?
You always have
Probably more like a pool than a hot tub.
Yeah,
I will
right.
say this: you always have what I like to call, or what at one point I had a sergeant major who literally put the title on my office door as acquisitions NCO.
Mhm.
You always have that acquisitions NCO.
Oh yeah.
We need this, we need this, we need that, we need that.
Right. And then you do
You
some
don't
night
ask.
ops, and
You
then
don't-
it shows up, and then
You-
you're like, "Where did this come from?"
You don't ask.
Nope.
You're just like acquire acquisitions.
Where?
Do your thing.
Yeah.
Right.
It kind
And
of
you got to walk that fine line.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And it kind of depends on. So this is tied back to the language thing. Some, they like to talk to me, and I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, have you ever seen one of those things over there? We might want one of those. And then,
I mean, from my
Hey,
experience in Afghanistan, all you had to do was let them hold your hand and tickle your palm for a little
I
bit.
believe that too.
And
Yeah.
then they would totally just give you whatever you wanted.
Yeah, I only went to Bagram, and I stayed on the base for the whole time. So
Best
Ugh.
deployment location that you've been to so far?
cool. So it's going to be Iraq. However, there's a qualification of that.
Okay.
So I got attached to the Real Boys,
Oh, nice.
and so the work that I was able to accompany them with was Syria.
Okay.
And so the Iraq deployment was my favorite location.
Just
but
because you got to go
it's the
to Syria.
best time of my career for sure.
I gotta say, they have like the best chow hall in the planet.
Syrians?
Yeah.
No, the real boys.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Well, they got a lot of money.
Hey, their chow hall.
I'm gonna throw this at you. The place where I was at, their chow hall was ish. The dudes had good stuff because it was like there was always chicken and broccoli that
Yeah.
was always ready for the dudes to have protein and veggies.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the chow hall was, I've had better for sure.
Right.
Well, the upgraded
Like
version,
Iraq BDSC, that chow hall kicked this places.
right.
the upgraded version on Erbil.
Yep.
Of
Yeah, Erbil's great too.
The shittiest location you've been to, or worst location.
So this is two-sided. I gotta qualify this one too. It's so stupid.
Cleveland, Ohio.
Come on now.
Cleveland, Ohio.
That's not a deployment location. Detroit's a deployment location.
That's for sure.
No, it's actually like a good place and a bad place, but it's UAE. outside of Dubai. I just happened to be there during 2018, and it was the summer, and it was 115 degrees and 150% humidity because we were pretty much like on an island that didn't exist in the middle of an ocean.
Yep.
Sassanakal, maybe you've been there. Oh
Okay.
my god, it was probably I've never experienced anything like it.
Okay.
I can be at 130 degrees in Iraq and it's cool.
Yep. It's a humidity thing.
And
It's miserable.
It's
It's like being down in
unbelievable.
Fort Benning
Are
in the
we
summertime.
starting this shit with the it's a dry heat? Oh my
It
god.
is a big
Yeah.
difference.
There's a huge
Heat.
difference.
Huge difference.
Oh,
Huge.
I mean, it was
No,
it was
it's a-
30 degrees in Idaho last
I
week.
would
and there's no
rather-
I
humidity.
can attest going from
Whoops.
Tennessee.
Go Jackson.
Yeah, Tennessee to Wyoming is totally
Yeah.
different. 100% different. I
You're
can
right,
attest.
because it's like I spent time in Arizona.
Listen,
then I
you're
go
a
to Georgia.
Flatlander. You don't know what you're talking about, all right?
Jesus Christ. So for our listeners that might want advice on wanting to become SF Green Beret, what do you recommend that they do? What is something that you wish you would have known going in as an 18 X-ray that would have benefited you that you would like to impart on our listeners?
Cool. So if I could do my career again, I would not be a Green Beret.
Really? Okay.
Correct. I would have spent time in Ranger Battalion, and then I would have gone to a Tier 1 element if I could do it again.
Why would you do that?
For this one reason. And I thought when I signed up to be a Green Beret, I thought that this was something that I was really going to enjoy, and I found out that I don't enjoy it as much. So the main thing and what we're doctrinally made to do
Yeah.
is to do essentially foreign internal defense or teach indigenous people to fight for themselves.
Unconventional warfare, right?
Unconventional warfare. I found out that I really like to teach our allies, but I don't like to teach people in the Middle East.
Okay. So you would recommend people if they're going to
Make
go on
sure
a
you know what
soft,
you're getting into.
be specific about which soft road, I guess you're going to go
100%.
down.
100%.
Whether it's Navy SEALs,
Yep.
Ranger Battalion, TACP, PJs,
100%. Yep.
whatever branch of military you're going down, just know what that job is and it entitles. And
I mean, and even that, like, yes, to the answer your question, 100%. I thought that I was really going to like that, and coming from my fairly sheltered New Hampshire life,
yeah,
I was like, oh, it sounds great. I'm going to go overseas. There's only going to be a couple of us dudes. We're going to go over there. We're going to work with some other guys. They have all the same processes, like toilets and water, but they do it differently. I'm going to get to learn something from them, and they're going to get to learn something from us. Like, that really appealed to me. And then in practicality, no, that's not what I wanted. I love teaching us dudes. I do not enjoy
So your SWIC time you really enjoyed.
100%.
Okay.
So
Changed my
what you're
life.
saying is
Changed my
you
life.
did not enjoy squatting and using a water hose.
I don't mind doing it for myself. I'm able to do that for sure. What I don't like is trying to teach other people that I don't like and are probably going to end up being our enemy
Yeah.
how to be better.
Okay.
I like teaching you and the other guys that fight side by side.
Well, I might take you up on that, and
Okay.
we go to gun range sometime. You can teach
Anytime.
me some
Well,
winded.
you can come to my house. I got a 270 meter or a 100 meter, 270 degree range.
Oh, bro, I'm gonna bring my guns. We're gonna have a good
I
time.
got all the steel. Come on out, baby.
Fuck
Hey,
yeah.
we'll bring the bourbon.
I'll bring the
bourbon.
bourbon, the bullets, the guns.
And we're not going to be shooting and drinking at the same time.
No. We don't do
No,
that.
of
That's
course not.
That's unsafe
That's
practice.
unsafe.
Nobody
That's
does that.
unsafe.
We don't
Nobody
do
does
that.
No.
That's like using alcohol and chainsaws.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
No,
Yeah,
nobody does
no,
that.
I
Yeah.
don't climb trees or do any of
No,
that
I've,
stuff.
Jack-
I've
Jackson-
never rolled down a mountain on a 4-wheeler. No, definitely
Yeah.
not
No,
drinking.
never,
either.
ever.
Never done it.
I'm
Never.
gonna ask Jackson some of the same questions real quick just to get an idea.
Hang on.
What?
Flatlander, are you there?
Jackson, are you there?
Oh, the
Yeah,
Flatlander's
here.
back. Okay. I
Okay.
thought you fell off the map for a minute.
I've been here.
Oh, he might have fallen asleep just for a minute, but it's okay.
No,
He's not completely old
It's
man
been a
status.
long
He's
day.
retired Army.
Yeah, he is retired.
So I know some retirees they fall asleep at mid conversation.
No,
Is
I gotta say this because we did not add this at the beginning. All right, you churched Trey up real good. It sounded great. Like I was ready to cream my jockeys, but then you got the Jackson, and I'm like,
He's
All right, we're talking about 11 bang bang career, 11 bang
20
bang.
years.
Yeah.
Who pulled the Beverly Hills hillbilly
Probably
here,
killed more people
and he
than I.
packed it up, and he moved out to Wyoming to
My
be a
man.
real cowboy.
Appreciate you, Jackson.
yeah.
Just saying. So
Thanks for your
he's-
first of
he's
all,
living
thanks
a life.
thanks for both of you both you
man.
guys. Thank you for your service.
I'm just saying. I got a little
Jackson,
chubby talking about where he went.
when you joined the military, did you decide you wanted to be an infantryman straight off?
I knew I wanted to start as infantry. And I knew that it would give me options. I definitely contemplated the soft thing, and I think every infantryman does that wants to be a good infantryman and make a career of it. And it just turned out that I really enjoyed being an infantry guy. And I learned over time too that that's okay.
Yeah.
100%.
Saying,
I actually,
I
I don't mean to
really
cut
love
you off,
the job
Jackson,
as an infantry dude.
but I know a lot of guys
No,
that are in
you're good.
the SF community that really want to go back to the infantry community.
And why is that? Why would anybody want to go back to infantry and go away from that soft element?
I think it's like a complication thing
Mm.
where there's, I don't know. I think Jackson might know a little bit about. I've never been a platoon sergeant.
Okay.
I've never been a squad leader.
Really?
No, I mean we have. Go.
I just really enjoyed the fact that if there's really only kind of three places really you could be direct action, and that's your bread and butter. And at the lowest level, that's the infantry, and at the highest level, that's a tier 1 place.
Yeah.
And it's that was kind of the debate, and I saw that with a lot of my peers. Was they did the same thing that Trey was talking about, like the SF thing's really cool and it has its perks. Don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, it is a very different job than.
Yeah, it's a very
100%,
specific
totally.
skill
And,
set that you guys
and the
are
direct action.
learning,
I mean,
right?
essentially, unless you're in that one battalion in each group that has that, unless you're in that one battalion in each group that has that one company that is your direct action company,
Right.
then you're not direct action.
Yeah. Because you
I don't
guys
know if I
have
agree with
different,
that.
like the CRIF guys, and
I
you got,
would like to hear the input on this. I'm just going based off like IMTO and metal kind of look.
yeah.
Go, Jackson. What you got, bud?
Well, I feel like GWAT was definitely a soft
Mhm.
thing. It was a word that was designed for soft. It was not. I don't think conventional infantry honestly should have never really had a place over there. And if they did, it was integrated with soft units for soft units to use them for what they're good for.
Well, yeah,
I
they're
mean,
force multipliers.
So I think that's where a lot of people. Yeah, I think a lot of guys got this. Well, if you're infantry versus soft with GWAT, it muddled what the differences were and what each job is really good at. If you need, and a lot of soft guys I'm friends with, they attest to it. If you need to roll over Russia or roll over some other military that has a conventional military, like your infantry guys are it. Those are the guys that are going to just go break everything. And they're really good at it, being disciplined and doing it. So it's just a very different
Well, especially
job,
if you guys are attached to
so
a mechanized unit,
that's kind of.
then you guys are even more lethal.
Yep. I would even argue that I think we probably should use conventional forces more because now we find ourselves in the place where we're at now where it's like, well, are we doing conventional? When I don't know, it's kind of probably tough to say, but you go in there and you just win and then you're done. That's what we did in Desert Storm.
Right.
I would say my opinion, at least for the Afghanistan deal, is it should have stayed more soft with elements to accentuate or to beef up soft as needed to bolster them.
Yep.
But it was, in my opinion,
like uplift units.
But in my opinion, Afghanistan was a complete soft ordeal.
Yeah.
Start to finish, and should have stayed that way. And you would have probably looked at a lot different outcome.
So Jackson, did you ever consider going the soft route after you went to the 11 Bravo route?
Yeah. I got shafted and ended up in Korea right out of basic, so that was kind of a downer. And then I got to 10th Mountain in 2012. And back then there's a lot of, if you weren't in Ranger Regiment or you weren't SF, you're probably in 10th Mountain. If you couldn't cut those two, 10th Mountain, the good old 18 Airborne Corps guys. So I
so
had
the
a lot of really great leadership.
82nd
I'd say
guys, is that what you're talking about?
your 10th Mountain, 82nd, 101st
Okay, yeah.
guys. That's kind of like the
Yep.
trifecta of like infantry dudes that think they're better than every other infantry dude, and there's some truth to it.
Not 82nd. There's not.
So like
All
most of my
American,
platoon,
my ass.
Hey man, they're
Okay,
they're
not
actual
that you're
airbornes
second.
over there
So-
versus air assaulters.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and we all jumped
Yeah.
a little at
Well,
first.
So like I'll stick with 10th Mountain.
Yeah, I think the 10th Mountain
10th
guys have it
Mountain
the
is what I know.
toughest
So I-
based on the guys that I know, because you go to a lot of the mountain schools for 10th Mountain, right? And you have to go to cold weather and some of those other things where
Yeah.
the other airborne units don't necessarily, or infantry units don't necessarily need to do that, right?
10th Mountain used to have a joke that when it was true sometimes, when Alaska had mild winters, they would send their guys to 10th Mountain because that's where you're always going to get a bad winter, no matter what. It was a very Arctic environment. And it was the most deployed regular infantry unit out of anybody in like 20 years. So, when I got to my first platoon, most of my NCOs were Ranger qualified. So, which you don't really find anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was just surrounded by a bunch of studs who took their job super seriously. A lot of the guys were in the surge, and it was just a really good place to be. Like, it wasn't some units you find that, oh well, we're just regular infantry and they do regular infantry stuff. I had a really driven. The whole battalion was that way, being super driven, very qualified, very professional. They didn't want to just be regular infantry.
Right.
They wanted to be the best infantry unit there was. So when the cool jobs did come up, they'd get called on it.
Yeah,
I just want to say Ranger
That's
School
kind
is
of
a drop in
where
the
my
bucket.
deciding
Ranger
factor
school is
was.
just a
It's a drop
teaching
in the,
school.
No, it's just a drop in the bucket. If you want a real school, you go
Yeah.
to Sapper School.
Oh God.
I've never been to either.
So
Oh,
how many
yeah.
how many combat deployments have you been on, Jackson, in your 20-year career?
I did 2.
You did 2,
No,
and
I
those were
was 20.
13
I
month,
was only
So, no,
13-month long.
11.
He didn't do 20.
No,
He
there
medically
were.
retired.
I did 11 years.
Yeah, he didn't get to make
Yeah,
it. He had
I
to
did
medically
11 years
retire.
active duty.
Oh, you get okay. So you did 11 and you retired out.
Yeah.
He had to medically retire.
Hey man, that's admirable
Yeah.
still.
Heck yeah.
And then Trey, how many?
I did
Oh.
9.
Go ahead.
I did 9.5 years straight in a platoon.
Nice.
So
That's
that
crushing
was the bulk of my career.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
and then Trey, how many combat deployments have you been on in your time so far?
7, but they would be shorter. So mine range anywhere from anywhere between 2 to 7 months.
Okay, and then Ryan, how many deployments have you been on?
Well, I mean, if we're breaking it up like his, then I'm at 6.
Okay,
But if we
Nice.
don't break it
Oh,
up
he's
like
massing.
his, I'm at like
yeah,
18 months the first go,
yeah.
15 months the
I can
second
imagine.
go.
So I've
doing
got-
something that long.
I'm not a combat guy, but I've got 14 deployments under my belt.
God bless you, dude.
Yeah, and it's
I'm not
rush.
a combat guy either.
It's-
I just got lucky and
it's-
played with all the combat
Yeah,
guys.
and I'm
Whoa,
normally
that
a
sounded
support.
real bad.
I'm normally a support element, which is still a fun time
Heck
because I get to hang out with a lot of you guys.
And it's almost always more important.
In some element, that is true because for me, what I do now as a civilian, I provide all the AISR
Yep.
feed
Yep.
stuff for you guys,
Yep.
which is paramount because when you guys are there and you're on the ground and you're looking at your rover feeds or whatever,
Dude, it's big time.
it's big time, right?
It's
And
big
it's
time.
great for the battle commander because they can see real time what's going on. But I digress.
I would say that's probably one of the biggest lessons that I learned with working with the real boys.
Yeah.
They have dudes that support them,
Mm-hmm.
and they're expected to be
Yeah.
really good at their job.
Yeah.
And then they do that job.
Right.
Like you don't.
I-
do
You
the
got
other
one job, man.
You don't
I
do the
think-
other job. You do your job, and you do it really well.
Yeah. Go, Jax.
Well, I think that a point that I've seen is, I think it's more so the civilian outside looking in perspective
Mhm.
because you have you got the Mike Glovers, the Black Rifle guys, all of them, and they think that there's almost like a us versus them mentality between special operations dudes and and everybody else.
Right.
And I've gone and argued it on the pettiness of social media to say that I've found it to be completely opposite. You
Yep.
know, I think that as long as you have that mentality of everybody has their job to do and don't try to act like you're something that you're not,
Yep.
and be the best that you can be at your job, it garners respect within the organization. You know,
Everybody's
I
got.
would say the infantry community,
Yeah, go ahead.
well, the infantry community and the special operations community, I think is honestly closer now than it ever has been.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Absolutely.
more interactive now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even at the schoolhouse where we teach long range marksmanship, I mean, we accept 101st guys, infantry guys all the time. And then, kind of to your point, Jackson, I think you're totally on point with that one. I mean, there are probably 18, let's call it 24 metal tasks, 50 that we have to be quote unquote, I'm using my quote fingers, proficient at, right?
Mhm.
And so I don't touch a mortar for a couple years. And then I go to the infantry guy who's a private E2, and I'm like, tell me how to do this thing.
Yeah.
Because I haven't touched it and I'm supposed to be good at it. But
Yeah.
tell me how to do
But that's a
this
real
thing.
that's a real thing because
it's a real thing.
you know, E6, E7, E8s, they want to know something. They usually go down to the
100%.
lower level because those
mean,
guys
if
are
you're
doing
worth
it
a
day
shit.
in,
Yeah,
day
yeah.
out.
Yeah,
And
if
then
you're-
it's like if you want that refresher, you're normally going to go back.
yeah.
But wait a minute, you're supposed to go to MLOC. You're supposed to
on.
be able to go to MLOC. Oh, but wait, there's more.
Oh,
There's no MLOC slots available.
Oh, no
Yeah.
kidding.
So how are you supposed to be an infantry mortar
Speaking-
leader guy when you can't get in the course?
Speaking from the course NCO,
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm just saying, from a non-combat guy
You
experience.
used to lead MLOC?
No,
no, he's
I
just
used
the
to
school's
lead you all
NCO
to
for you.
it.
Yeah,
Right.
I just used to lead you all to it. But
Yeah.
what I'm saying, like from a non-combat arms standpoint, with 17 years in, I have spent more time either training with, deploying with, running convoy ops, and everything else with combat arms guys.
Mhm.
Because without getting into the willy-nilly of my MOS, when I joined the Army, they didn't have a fucking clue of what I was. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, you're an engineer. We're just going to put you with these guys.
Yep.
So next thing you know, you're running a 50 cal or a Mark 19 on top of a gun
Yeah.
truck, and you're out the gate, right? So I trained more with
Were you one of those SFAB guys?
that came around later. 17 years
Me?
in, right? I didn't do the
I'm
SFAB
just
thing.
messing with you.
I love the SF patch.
Right, that they've
Like,
got.
It's not a tab,
with
but it's just
the-
the big SF
the
patch. And I'm like,
arrowhead?
oh,
Yeah.
so you're the special force or security forces?
Right,
Very
yeah.
Well,
good.
so
Which, yeah.
you know what? That brings us to a good point here. I'm going to do a little segue.
Yeah, we're doing a
All right,
major
here
segue
we do
right
a little
now.
Segue, right? So, prime example. This is a prime example of Big Army wanting something that SOF has.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
Kind of like
So-
the beret
so-
thing
So-
that happened.
So Big Army decides.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Over a decade now. Jesus, I'm
Yeah,
old.
you
Right?
you
Over
are
a
old.
decade now, Big Army decides it wants its own civil affairs unit
Mhm.
in ForceCom.
Yeah,
And they want them COCOM aligned and assigned to divisions, right? So I go and I start standing up a battalion and blah, blah, blah. We're COCOM aligned, right?
Right.
Next thing you know, I'm Civil Information Management level 4. I can train CA to do SIM collection and all this shit. It lasts for all of 5 years before ForceCom realizes they cannot sustain the budget required
right.
to
Yeah.
facilitate that, and they're like, "You're gone."
And that's
so
why
by 2018, they just disappeared,
Toast.
Yeah.
right? And now you have SFAB,
Yeah.
who it's like, wait a minute, what other? Hang on, head scratcher. What other elite forces do I have at my disposal that
Does
are
advising-
subject matter experts and advisors to go and train and lead and mentor soldiers? What is that?
I actually think that's a legit thing. So
I mean,
don't-
it's
I don't
good
think
because
that
it
all
can
the
kind of
That's
maybe
that thing?
maybe
Go ahead, Jackson.
might cut you guys out of a job in a way, because if they put those SFAB guys doing that, then you guys can focus on DA type things, right?
So that's actually not our job.
Oh,
Yeah, our job is to make individuals or indigenous people fight for themselves, and so not lose American lives.
okay.
Right. So the DA
think
stuff
that-
that we do is kind of ancillary, and it's the stuff that
No,
generally
that's what he's saying. Is that not what you do? Basically, you go and you train foreign forces to
Well,
fight
yeah, but
for
that's what I'm saying.
themselves, right?
SFAB is going to undercut them.
SFAB, that's what he's saying, is SFAB is trying to
Yeah, so then you
taking-
guys would just strictly do DA stuff at that point
like
because if
now you got two hogs at the trough.
So I think
so to
this
speak.
I think this leads to my greater point of this whole thing, which is I don't think, and I think there's some, I don't know why these commanders either do or do not know this, but they just don't use the tool.
Mhm.
There's like some stigma about utilizing some version of a soft tool.
Right.
I mean, that tool can be utilized in so many different directions.
Right.
And I think that half the time that it doesn't, because it would be the good
Do you
tool.
want to know why it is?
Go
Trey?
for it, Jackson.
It's because half your sergeant majors in the infantry
Mm.
were good enough to make sergeant major in the infantry, but they weren't good enough to make it through SFAS, so they have a sour taste in their mouth,
ain't
so they're
wrong.
always going to be against it.
Yep, you ain't
I
right.
saw it throughout my
I
career.
believe you.
Anytime dudes wanted to leave a battalion to go to SFAS or go to any other assessment selection, they'd be like, "Oh, what do you want? Like, what makes you so much better than everybody else?" And it was all 9 times out of 10. If you look down that sergeant major's career or that first sergeant's career, it was because he went and tried for it and didn't make it and had a bitter taste in his mouth.
I believe
That's
you.
exactly what it
I
is.
believe.
And
I have a part 2, a different perspective of the SFAB thing too. Of I think things have evolved where they want special forces, and this is me being in La La Land of hoping for the best. I should have learned better in the Army of hoping for the best and people being smart. I think they want to change things where special forces train other countries' special forces, and then they have SFAB train conventional forces to conventional forces, which isn't what it was designed to be at all in the first place. SF wasn't designed to be that way.
Agreed.
But I think that's what it's just kind of ad hocly progressed to.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Go for it, Dan.
That's my
to your
point.
point with those that couldn't make it to get berets, that's why that one general came around and gave everybody the black beret and stole it from the Ranger battalion, and then
Yup.
everybody had berets.
So I've
It's
actually,
like
Yep.
here's a participation award. Now you all get wear a beret.
yeah, and I just learned this year. So one of the guys that works for me, he's did 20 years. He's one of the horse soldiers. He's been teaching sniper school for 20 years too. Awesome. Well, he tells us, and I just learned it, call it since May. He said when he showed up to special forces group, every single buddy in the formation wore a green beret.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you had a long tab or you didn't,
Mm-hmm.
everyone had a green beret.
Yeah, you were
They were-
honorary if you're a part of it.
Yep. If you're a part of the group, you
Mhm.
wear a green beret. And then
Yeah.
then it changed away from, SF guys wear green berets, and then the support personnel wear red berets.
Right.
So essentially, you take that family, and it's like a house divided at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, don't
But
get me wrong.
I never knew that.
Actually, in reality,
Yeah, that used to be a
So-
thing.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
I knew that, and that's why when I showed up, I'm like, this is 100% a house divided.
So
And like you've got the lines, but what I wanted to caveat on was Jackson's point
uh-huh.
and about how they're trying to separate SF trains SF,
Right.
Conventional
Yeah. Conventional
trains is
does conventional.
conventional.
Right.
right? And I can say this
From being downrange.
from,
Yeah.
no, from direct experience working with Jackson and working with one of the cephalic committee NCOICs
Mhm.
that group, right? The three of us coming together, collaborating, building a POI,
Mm.
and then turning around and pushing and teaching that to 101st and enablers to do a train the trainer concept,
Yeah.
right? Like Jackson was part of the guinea pig phase for that,
Mhm.
right? And we built this great process that is now basically just like kind of, do I have an ODA that wants to do this and get some training time and hands on, right? You got your POI already done, it's already built. And now I've got ODAs here and there
Right.
who want to take it on and train it. But that's what I'm getting at, is it's
I
still
think
an
due
SF
to-
thing.
Yeah.
I think
They're the
due
ones
to-
teaching it.
I think due to really believe, and I guess you would say it's a cause of wanting to be masters of their craft, will always just put aside all the political crap that the big Army organization perpetuates
Yep.
and drives at an organizational level. And dudes who really want to get better are always going to find the best dudes at that thing and then go ask them to help them.
Totally
Yeah.
agree.
And I think Special Operations has all this money now from GWAT, which they should. It's great. I think it's awesome. And I think that now that things have wound down, to Trey's point of he likes training our dudes better than he likes training these other dudes that are probably going to shoot us in the back later on.
Yep.
Like those guys want to train us. They have the ammo and they've had the time to become subject matter experts. So why wouldn't infantry dudes reach out to him and be like, hey, here's a skill set that we're weaker on that you guys specialize in. So go ahead and teach us.
Yeah.
And it goes back and forth, though, because to Trey's point, he's got to go to an infantry battalion and say, hey, I got to run a mortar range. Can you toss me your chucks for a weekend so that we can go refresh on all this
100%.
stuff? It's dudes are always going to put aside the petty lines to be able to be the best at their job so that they can get the job done.
I think that's the way it's supposed to be. We went on a detour for a while here. I'm gonna circle us back.
It was an amazing.
It was an amazing.
detour.
It was an amazing detour, and I love everything about that because it was very dynamic.
It really wasn't a detour because it's still right on course with guns and shooting and blowing things up.
Yes.
It's just a deviation from your guideline.
Right.
Hang it in
Exactly.
fire.
That's what I said. You
Exactly.
know, we're gonna redirect. We're gonna redirect here.
All right.
So growing up, we're gonna go around the room, and we're gonna answer these questions kind of in a round robin session, and it'll it's gonna be good.
Duck, duck, goose.
Yeah, growing up, Trey,
Sir.
first gun that you shot. Do you remember?
Yep, sure do. It was the first one I bought too.
I remember mine too.
Yep, Ruger 1022. Bought it from Walmart.
Got it from Walmart.
Still have it.
How old
now.
were you when you got that?
18.
18. All right, Ryan.
I shot my first gun way before that.
Well, this isn't a dick measuring competition. This is just when was the first
Hey,
time.
how did you know what my first gun I shot was?
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. All right. Anyways, thank you very
It
much.
was actually a BB gun, but I would just say the first gun that I bought. Anyway, go.
Yeah, right. BB
Well,
guns
I mean,
mostly,
The first time you shoot it, it's like a BB gun. You don't know what it's going to do, and you're just trying.
You're just
But
waiting for it. It just
all
goes off,
see,
and you're like,
now-
oh my
see-
God.
Yeah, exactly. All right. You got to be careful cleaning them guns, all right?
Yeah. No NDs. No NDs.
So, first gun I ever shot was a 410 shotgun.
Nice.
And how old were you?
8.
8 years old.
I mean,
a 410
'cause
shotgun.
So we didn't.
That's a soft one, at least.
We didn't count BBs as a gun.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, it's called a BB gun,
no,
so it kind of
like,
counts.
We didn't count it. Like you're talking about a 4-year-old running
If
around
you ask
with
the
a Red
liberal
Ryder-
media, that definitely counts. It's a
I'm
black
just saying,
weapon, and
you're
it counts.
talking about a 4-year-old running around with a BB gun,
Yeah.
shooting birds and stuff.
See, I
which
wish-
I never did that. I
Right.
never shot birds. But I'm
I
just
wi-
saying.
I wish I did that. I tried to do that for my boy. I'm like, there's your BB gun. Like, go do it. And I shot 3 410 shotgun shells yesterday, trying to kill this.
Right.
I wasn't trying to kill this thing. This
I was trying to.
this I was
that
trying to
was-
scare this cardinal away from scratching my wife's van.
Oh yeah. All right.
So I'm gonna go a little southern on you, okay?
Go for
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Because cardinals are kind of a thing.
I know.
Do you know what a cardinal represents?
Cardinal sins.
Other than a state bird, no.
No. So a cardinal, when you see a cardinal, from the way I was raised, it is a past loved one who has come to visit.
I thought that was butterflies.
No.
Well, then
That's
you're
a
telling me
different
I
thing.
shouldn't try and dispatch this cardinal.
Exactly. And I
Mm.
mean, if it's, you know what? I'm not even going to say the comment I was
All
about to
right,
say. 'cause
Jackson.
I'm not causing any problems
Yeah.
there. Nope.
Jackson, what was yours? Your first gun that you shot, what was it?
Oh, it was a 22.
Yeah, and how old were you?
22 long rifle. I still have it.
Yep, samesies.
Yep.
How-
I'm like Trey.
how
It's
old-
Still down in the basement.
How old were you when you got that?
Oh, I was like 10.
Okay, so it's perfect because I got my kid his first.
Yeah.
It's sitting in the safe.
You got it from me.
I did. I bought it off you.
Ah.
Got it real cheap.
hmm
Got a sweet deal.
Yeah, but I got it cheap too. So
But we went through an FFL and everything. It was legit. It was legal and
You
all
have to.
things. It was
Yeah.
all.
yeah, I got a bill of sale. And
Yeah,
everything.
it was all on the up and up.
Yeah, I got a bill of sale, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
I copied photo ID. I've got his mailing address.
Fingerprints.
He's got
the whole
a he's
nine.
got
Yeah.
an imprint of my butthole on
Yeah,
it. Yeah, it's
exactly.
everything.
I photocopied it all. I have it. 100%.
For me,
You know,
I didn't shoot guns growing up until I was an adult. So once I joined the military, that was the first time I actually got to shoot a gun.
No kidding.
Yeah,
so you were 18.
I was 20.
What?
Oh wow,
I was 20 years old when I got to shoot my first
Jeez.
gun.
that explains a lot.
Oh, shut the fuck
I've
up.
shot with you before.
I'm
That
better
explains a
shot than
lot.
you.
No,
We go to range.
You need his help.
I don't.
Yeah, you do.
I don't. Maybe
shut
for
up.
long gun on
For
like
any gun.
Depends.
For
Yeah.
any gun.
Well,
I used to be halfway
I
decent
gotta
at a
say
bunch of
this.
stuff.
Yeah.
He
Oh,
he doesn't listen.
this
He believes he knows how to do it.
is that's actually a thing.
Yeah,
It
it is
is.
a
It's
thing.
called a Rambo complex.
He
yeah,
has
I
it.
don't have that.
Yeah,
no,
it's like-
I've shot guns with you.
I'm a dude, and I know how to run this thing that makes a lot of noise. And then when you go and teach women, they generally don't have that,
Yeah.
and then they just listen to
Oh,
See,
you.
no,
now
I
no.
so bad want to go to CIFSIC
God,
and go through the course.
I'd
and
love
just
to go
have him-
through that.
and just be the guinea pig. Like I don't care, just teach.
Yeah, I'd
me.
love to go through that.
Dude, it's a good time to come through. The dudes are working real hard, and they're real innovative. It's a good
The
time.
funniest thing that happened for me because of being older, learning to shoot.
Everybody who made fun of you.
No. The funniest thing for me was because I'm in the military and your first time on the line, and
It's a lot of pressure.
somebody decides they want to stand up and flag everybody.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
That's and then you see the
Drill sergeant.
What did you
whoever-
call him?
I don't even remember anymore. But whoever's running the range master. You see the range master actually tackle the guy.
God, my mind went like straight dominatrix there all of a sudden when you
Marshall.
said range master.
Yeah, so you see, we called him the range master when we're on the firing line, and
I feel like somebody's standing at the door measuring as you walk in. Oh, you don't have the range for this. Get out.
yeah, but it was funny because like you see, they tell us in the briefings before going to the range, and they give us all the spiel, right? And this kid, he was from Puerto Rico. English is not his strong suit, so he doesn't know what's going on. So to his defense, he didn't know.
Yep.
And he stands up because he got a stovepipe and he doesn't know what to do, and so he starts to turn, and we all see that it's a stovepipe, but the range master doesn't see that, and so he just tackles this dude full fucking force, and he just goes flying through his lane and into the dirt, and we're all just like,
probably
what?
which is more unsafe.
Yeah, and we're all like, what in the fuck is
Yeah.
going on right now?
You know what? Just pause for a second on that note, right? And think for just a second. Range master,
Right.
drill sergeant.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
They tackle you
That
and knock
stuck
you
on
through the
us.
wall.
Right.
We just went straight on like the military has enlisted like
Linebackers?
no dominatrix.
Oh, yeah,
It's a
okay.
drill master.
They can't
it's
do
a
that shit
range
no more. They
master.
can't do that shit anymore. Now they have to
Oh.
like give you a card and have a
Yeah, they
timeout
can.
and like all kinds of weird
That's
shit.
the Air Force.
No.
We never had a stress
Oh,
card.
no.
No, now they do. No,
Who?
Army.
No, we do have stress cards. No, the Army has stress cards, but
I quit.
drill
I'm going
sergeants are
home.
still
You
allowed to
should.
Put their hands.
I'm trying.
They literally
drill
can raise their
sergeants are
hands
still-
now and be like,
drill
I am
sergeants are
stressed
still
out.
allowed-
It's crazy.
Yeah, but drill sergeants can still put their hands on recruits.
Yep.
If they pose a threat, a safety threat to everybody else.
Right.
So all of my buddies that are drills now, they dream for the day that these idiots make a mistake, so that they can finally just let out all their
Right.
pent-up aggression on these dudes.
Uh,
All right.
favorite gun, Trey. What is your favorite gun?
Mm.
And
Go.
I was gonna say personal versus duty. What is your favorite personal gun versus your favorite duty gun or weapon?
They're kind of one and the same.
I knew that was coming.
Okay.
Yep. I'm an AR guy.
Okay. So you're an AR guy.
Hold up.
So you're a
hold up.
5.56?
No, you're an AR guy. Can
Yep.
you please explain to me what AR stands for,
That's
sir?
weird.
Assault rifle.
Well, no, it does not.
I know.
Don't you dare.
That's
I
so
know.
much later than we're supposed to cover, you dickhole.
Hey,
that's
he
tough.
led into it.
You're right.
He
and
set me up.
That's fine.
You know,
Well,
it's a guideline, all right?
it
It's not
is
a
a
fucking
guide.
guarantee
It's
to
not a
stick to.
guarantee.
Yeah, I'm a big AR guy.
I'm more in now, thank you.
I love them. So I mean, I gave this
AR-10
really
or AR-15s?
both. I'm just an AR guy in general.
So you just like that platform because you're familiar with it. It's easy to
So
disassemble. It's
great.
easy to find parts. It's easy for cleaning.
Built a bazillion of them.
Right.
I love them. I love building them. They shoot well. They're just
And being a Bravo, that's your wheelhouse.
it's just where I've ended up.
Yeah, okay.
And out of all of them, I mean, I love a bolt gun too. Don't get
Yeah.
me wrong.
So what's your favorite bolt gun?
Whew. That's a tough one.
Do you have?
I don't know. I don't know if I have
Now,
the
when we
answer
say
to that
gun,
yet.
are we talking brands? Or are we talking caliber?
Doesn't we'll get to the caliber once he says the favorite gun because then it kind of covers that.
I don't know if I'm there yet. Like
Okay.
I have a really great gun and it's built off of a Defiance Action with a Hawk Hill barrel.
Mhm.
Both great companies. If I would do another one, I'd probably go a different direction. Like, not the barrels are the same. Hawk Hill is, in my opinion, the best barrels to get. But I would probably go with maybe a Lone Peak action or something, some other premium action.
Jackson,
But,
what do you got for us?
Yeah.
Are you
Oh, my current favorite gun, like my everyday truck gun.
well
or
when
handguns?
you
Are
were
we doing-
when you
are we
got
separating
personal
those
your
two?
personal favorite versus when you were enlisted and you're on.
Let's stick with long guns because we started with long guns, and we'll revert back to pistols.
I don't think we care about pistols.
You know what? We're
Oh,
deviating
love a
from your
pistol.
track.
Work
How
gun.
about you just be quiet?
I love a
Because
pistol.
pistols are a real thing. Okay.
My
They are.
favorite
We're
work
gonna get to
gun-
that later, but
No, we already deviated. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
My favorite work gun was the Mark 48 because you got the size of a 249, but you're carrying 7.62, and you can just lay down mad
I
hate.
do
And
love a
that was my
machine
favorite
gun.
work gun.
249 is a good one. I
love
like
a
the sound of
machine-
those
I
when they're
love a
going.
machine gun. Oh, this is a
Yeah.
Mark 48. This is a 30 cal.
Like-
Oh, that's
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this is like a 240, but the same size
Yeah.
as a 249.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
It's awesome.
Yeah, you're just laying down hate. It is like an infantryman's wet dream.
I do love an
So
M2HB. I love
But,
a 50 cal too.
that's what I was thinking. It was a 50 cal because you hear
Yeah,
that and it's,
yeah.
that just the sound of it is just
And
menacing
tell
as
you-
fuck.
You know,
You're
it's
in the
not
light
even the
infantry,
sound
you got-
for me on the
it
Ma
sounds
Deuce,
so
it's the
flippant.
vibration.
I love it.
I just like the sound because it's you just know somebody's getting fucking annihilated on the other end of that. They're just gonna be pink
Yeah,
mist.
I feel like if men could
tell you're
actually
a
perform
heavy
like the Ma
weapons
Deuce,
company.
more women would be happy.
No, I don't think they would. I think they'd be dead because you'd be ejaculating straight through them all the way to the top of their
We're
cranium.
talking about the rhythmic thrust here.
Oh,
the
I thought you meant the impact and the.
Oh.
continuous. I mean, if you're doing the
Hey.
impact, then I don't know what to tell you.
I'm
You
just
need
saying,
to get checked out.
There's
You got
some
problems.
there's some annihilation
You know,
going on
I'm-
with
I'm
it.
just talking about that. That's
The
like-
gyration mode. All right,
Yeah,
I got
you
you.
know?
Yeah.
I need to go back to school to learn how to be that big of a man.
Oh,
I would need to be reborn. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to
right.
be reborn and restart this whole thing.
Oh God, Ryan, what you got for us?
I'm for me as far as
Favorite.
Yeah, your fave,
favorite service weapon.
personal or service.
Oh,
You said we were sticking to the long guns.
Yeah, so long guns would be honestly AR-10.
Okay, yeah.
I
I thought 300 Blackout was your favorite.
no.
Oh,
No, we're talking.
okay.
That's 300 Blackout's really not a long gun. I mean, it is, but it isn't.
Yeah, it's an AR-15.
I mean,
It
if
is.
I like
It is.
so I like the 300 Blackout for my truck gun purpose
Mhm.
that I built, right?
Yep.
But I will say, gun wise,
Mhm.
and I'm not so much a fan of the caliber. I like when I talk long guns, I prefer 6.5 Creedmoor.
Okay.
Okay,
Creed's good.
I myself and Jackson helped me built a 308 AR-10
Yep.
sniper rifle
Mhm.
for my dad, right?
Cool.
100%. That is my favorite gun, and it's not even mine.
Mm.
Never even pulled the trigger
Sniper
on it.
rifle or a
Never even pulled the trigger. No,
hunting rifle.
it's an
Could be one-
AR-10.
Could be one of the same.
Either or. It's an AR-10, right?
yeah.
Like
I mean,
20-inch
hunting is
barrel.
hunting.
20-inch barrel.
It's long.
It's got the mag pull. I forgot the super duper mag pull that's got all the adjusters, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's got the Geisley drop-in trigger, like the whole shebang.
Oh, it's got a
right?
Geisley trigger.
Oh
in
yeah,
there.
whole
all right.
shebang, right? Me and Jackson
Okay.
built this.
So it's
right?
an adjustable trigger
Right.
and all that.
Let's put it this way: first gun I ever built.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson helped me build it.
So
Bought
that's
me
your
all
favorite.
kinds of stuff.
That's your
That
favorite
is
one.
100% my favorite.
Okay.
You know why?
Because you guys built it.
Because I built it with one of my brothers.
Well, that
So 100%.
All right.
That specific gun is my favorite, and will continue to be.
My favorite is my FN Scar 17.
Oh, I already knew that was
you
coming.
Like the scar.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love
He's got the shorty.
I love it. It's my favorite because it's chambered in 308.
Yep.
And
7.62 for the military people that don't know what a 308 is.
still, it is effective. It's got good range. If I need it for close range, I can still use it for that. I just like it.
Yep.
Um,
So I've got this build.
I don't like the way it's built.
Yep.
Like the buttstock, that boot shaped weird shit that they've got going on. But the utility of it, the mechanics of it, and everything else, like it's effective. It's a good battle rifle,
And
right?
you got to say, when these guys let me shoot the scars are fun.
They
Yeah.
are, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're good guns.
They're just. I think
And-
they should redesign the buttstock.
And for a
100%.
like a quick access gun with some longer range,
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, 30 cal's not bad at all. I got this build going on right now, and I messed up on it. So I wish I would have done it better, or just did what I should have done, which is talk to my buddy that knows more about it than I do. But either way, I wanted to make a small 308 AR-10.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna get a 12.5-inch barrel, this, that, and the other thing. I got a 12-inch handguard, blah blah blah. Well,
you wish
308s.
it was 12 inches.
308s in gas guns, they're fickle, man.
Yeah.
So you got to figure out the weight with the buffer and figure out the gas and everything else.
Okay.
So I'm in the middle of trying to get this thing to like actually operate good. I mean, I just want a nice light carbon fiber, the whole business. But either way, it's fickle though, and I should have gone with at least a 13, if not a 14.5-inch barrel.
So would it be better to have done piston versus gas impingement, or
Maybe? I don't know, to be honest.
okay?
What do you think on that one, Jackson?
The shorter the barrel, you just have to have the heavier the buffer.
Yeah, I still got to get one of those.
Usually how it works.
Okay.
So
Yeah, you got to slow that baby down.
so like guys who do AR-15s, everybody wants to do the short barrels because they see all the sexy stuff on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
They'll go with like a regular H2 buffer, and they'll wonder why they have all these malfunctions. When 9 times out of 10, if you go below 14.5, you need to go to an A5 H2 buffer.
God, I love hearing this stuff. It gives me
Sorry,
a
I
boner.
got nerdy there.
I know. I haven't got it yet.
I got nerdy with it.
I know the guy or an executive from JP Rifle, so I'm going to go with the captured heavy 308 H2 tungsten captured buffer. So, but I just haven't got it yet. I got
I'm
kids. So
telling you.
right now.
I got kids, so
Adam and
$400 doesn't come all that frequently.
Wow.
Well, the way you're talking right now, I'm going to come very frequently.
I got $400
Just
I'm going to
saying.
give you just to see this happen.
All right. So why don't you lead off, Dan, with favorite pistol or sidearm?
Favorite,
Sidearm.
my favorite pistol,
Sidearm.
my favorite sidearm. My favorite sidearm? I would
the
have
reason
to.
I say that is because I know some people that literally carry around a snub nose shotgun.
Okay, so my favorite sidearm right now is the Springfield Springfield Hellcat that I've got. It's in a 9mm, and I've got a dock sight on it, so I really like it. It's smooth, the trigger's good, it's compact enough where it's not super obtrusive, and it doesn't have a lot of kick on it. So for me right now, like I used to be a Glock guy, and I love a lot of the Glock guns. But for right now, the Springfield Hellcat Pro is my favorite.
I believe you.
Before we jump over to Trey and ask his, I have to caveat on just your dock site comment.
Mm-hmm.
If you have never run a dock site, it can be different. But I shit you not, once you've run a dock site and figure it out,
So
I would never want to run anything else. That's just me.
for
That's
me personally, when you're shooting a pistol and you're in an environment where your tunnel vision happens, right? Because you got a lot of adrenaline and everything else like that. I find that it's easier to have a dock sight to focus in on versus having iron sights on a pistol. Even though your radius is short, I think for target acquisition, for me personally, and this could be different for everybody else, a dock sight helps for that when you're. But that just might be me.
What do you think there, Trey?
I think both have really good application. Like if I'm from me to you, don't matter what sights I got.
Right. You can just point and shoot.
Put my eyes on you and just give it hell. But when it comes to
I mean, at that point, ain't that the kind of like the finger method, which wherever my finger's pointing is where it goes?
generally it's your eyes, but samesies, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
Natural
however,
point of aim.
say again.
Yeah, point of aim, point of impact. Yeah.
Natural point of aim.
Yeah.
But
Natural point of aim
Yes.
is what I was going
yeah,
with.
that's where their eyes go. Yep. So anyway, but I actually really do like red dots,
Okay.
and I think they're more precise, like further out.
Mm-hmm.
So if I want to be precise between here to you and then out to 100 or 50, call it. say
Yeah,
that.
because most people aren't going to shoot out a hunter with a pistol.
Yeah, you just got to hold over a little bit like mortars.
Well, here's you a good example.
You're
right?
lobbing rounds at that point.
Here's you a good example. You take somebody who wasn't getting a lot of pistol trigger time, right?
Uh-huh.
And then you send them down to AMU.
Oh, you went down to Georgia
Right,
for that one, yeah.
right? And you're
Yeah.
working with guys, and you're doing competition shooting. You're shooting steel, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
And you're shooting a SIG, right? The
Yep.
M17s, and you've got
Those are
iron
nice.
sights, right? And you're doing okay, right? But then one of the team guys is like, hey, why don't you try my Glock, since we're running one-on-one on one-on-one, right? And then you figure out the dock sight and you smoke the team guy because you picked up on the dock sight and you're like, oh shit, bah, 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 and you just blow through it.
Yeah. It's a big game changer, I think.
That right there is like, that to me was like, okay, I'm decent with iron sights, but that dock sight, once you figure out how it works.
Well, it's just like a long gun,
that is like
iron sights versus optics.
game
You got optics that are dial you in, and it just really helps you, so you don't have to.
But
There's less guesswork at that point.
And see, that's the thing is like you have so many people like, I hate dock sights. No, you don't like a dock sight because you don't understand it,
And you haven't been
don't
trained
wanna
to
take
it.
the time to learn it.
Yeah.
I will say this though. So probably my favorite pistol, if we're gonna like circle back just a little bit,
to you,
Yeah.
Back to you.
right? We're gonna circle back. Probably my favorite pistol right now is my 43X.
Oh, nice.
You
love that Glock, huh?
I am lethal with that thing. And
Okay.
it's tiny.
It is super tiny. Do you have the extended on the magwell?
I do have a magwell on it. I've got adjustable sights on it.
Okay.
So it's pretty tricked out for a 43X.
Yeah.
But I'm deadly with that thing.
Mm.
And it's awesome. And
I
love
believe
carrying it.
you're
So,
deadly with any weapon if I put it in your hands, but
generally speaking, I'm okay on the other side of a barrel. But my point being, is that on that particular one, even
Wait a
though
minute, which side of which barrel?
I'm on the giving end.
he's
They're
not.
on-
He's
they're
the
on the
pitching
receiving.
side. He's
Yeah,
the
I'm the
pitching
pitching
side.
side.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're on the giving end, what are you giving?
He's giving hot
Bullets.
lead.
Oh,
He's giving hot
Bullets.
lead.
oh, you're slinging the lead.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's the lead slinger.
I'm probably also
just
lethal
saying
on
if
the
you-
other side too.
I'm just saying, if you set me up for
That'd
this,
be a one-time thing.
if you set me up for this, I'm gonna let you.
Yeah.
So on that particular gun,
Right.
I say particular, but for the utility that I use that gun, which would mostly be in my pants, I'm not going to put a red dot on it because I'm probably not going to need it. And
Right,
it probably
yeah.
takes up a little more space.
No, and that makes sense because for that particular application,
Right.
You know,
That-
I'm
that makes
curious.
sense.
I'm curious. So, how do you carry?
Do you carry appendix?
appendix.
Yeah, me too.
How do you carry, Jackson?
Appendix. Well, if I'm in town, I carry appendix. If I'm outside of town, I just open carry because carrying on a horse sucks.
Yeah. Well, so
big
it
time.
sounds like all of us typically carry appendix, which is it's not a traditional way that it's trained in the military.
Yeah, I like the hip. I like the hip too. It just depends on whether or not
Right.
you have the.
Because
clothes
in the
for it.
military, they train you to carry in the hip or on the leg,
Yep.
depending on or crossed on your chest, depending on
So-
what you're doing. But
I guess if you look at a clock and consider
The cross on the
if
chest
you
has
cons-
been outdated.
let's
It
say
is
you-
outdated, but
let's
I'm
say
old
you
as fuck,
consider
so-
your body a clock, right? Your waist a clock, right? I guess and your
Mhm.
your crotch is 12, your anus is 6, right? I guess I'm somewhere carrying between.
well, you're a lefty too, so this is
I
different.
am a lefty.
Oh,
I am
you're
a lefty.
offhanded.
Yeah,
You're a wrong.
Fucking
You're a wrong
nerd.
person.
yeah.
No. No. You know what left-handed people are?
In the right
wrong.
brain,
Wrong.
We're special.
you are special. You need like a
Wrong.
helmet.
Short
We've
bus
talked.
special.
We've talked about
you know,
this.
you say I need a helmet, but yet you just
You're
keep me around.
You're artistic and mildly autistic.
I would ask this though: are you also left eye dominant?
Mildly.
Mildly. Jackson's gonna kill you on kill you on this one.
All right, so I'm a 9 to noon carry.
Yeah, that's where I carry my
Ah.
ladies.
What, your vagina balls?
No, that's where the vagina
your
sits
vagina
normally. Yeah.
balls set between your 9 and 12?
Yeah, they sit right there, right on my leg normally, and they're rubbing on it.
what
That's most strip clubs are usually on my left
what I'm
leg.
getting at is, for me, my holster position shifts from that 9 o'clock hip
And you rotate
the
around
noon,
depending on where you're at, right?
depending on where I'm at and
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
Yep.
But
So-
I don't do it just to fucking do it. Like,
Now, do you?
this is something I will stand in my camper and practice for hours, because Jackson and
sure
other
you're
people,
practicing your draw and not drawing.
Well, that's not drawing. That's stroking. That's
Yeah.
different. Get it right.
You get your
I
draw,
know
stroke,
you're
whatever.
Trying to throw
you
a
know.
joke in there, but get it right when you throw it. All right. We can't all be Spider-Man and shoot across the table at you. But what I'm getting at here is, I'm gonna. Yeah, I know your joke was bad.
Yeah, it was terrible.
But what I'm getting at is, I take the time to do the draw practice, the dry fires at those positions,
So you get used to it.
so I get used to it.
Yeah, I think that's a
right?
normal thing with anybody that carries a gun. You need repetition, so you become proficient at that, whatever it is you're doing, whether it's a long gun, pistol,
But
it doesn't
I
matter. But
do kind of agree with the dock sight on a service weapon
Mhm.
as opposed to concealed carry. For me, I've tried it. The dock sight is not that comfortable when I draw it across my stomach. or
no,
my
it
hip.
hurts if you have the dock sight.
Yeah,
And that,
if
I
you
mean,
draw it wrong, it does not feel great. But I mean, that's why you practice, so that you don't. Do
when I
that.
come home and I'm ripped
What-
and
oh.
I wear it, then
You're
I'm
never
fine.
ripped. Don't lie.
But
All
when
right,
I'm here and I'm drinking and I'm getting fat,
the lips were moving. He had words formulated. Let's hear it,
No,
Trey.
I don't
Let's
have
hear
words.
it.
I'm saying, or I guess I do have words.
formulate them.
Right. But I mean, at the end of the day, who cares if it hurts? I mean, the reason why you're skinning your concealed weapon, not necessarily for practice, is for whatever
Defense.
You need to take.
You
care
know
of.
what? I
Yeah,
feel
like
like
you're
that's
gonna
what he said.
dispatch something
Yeah, if
or
you're-
someone.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
so-
I bet that's what he
I-
says on anal. She's like, it
I have
hurts.
a
He's like, who cares
caveat.
if it hurts? You're doing this for practice.
He's doing this for penetration purposes.
No, that's when this happens.
I have
Right,
Actually,
yeah.
from the other direction.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
have a perspective on this though with the red dot.
Yep.
Is that everybody? I equate to like land nav and GPS. Everybody loves having their little Garmin's on their wrist and all that, but if you can't read a map, you suck. So like at the end of the day, I think everybody needs red dots are definitely something that are awesome that you can use in the right application. But if you can't shoot iron sights, what happens when your battery dies?
I agree. So the dependency
I
see
think you
factor.
have to
window.
be proficient at both.
Right.
Actually, can I give some perspective on this one?
You can.
Not perspective. This is a story.
Yeah, I want to hear
Go
it.
Yeah.
for it.
Hold on,
Yeah,
hold on,
roll
hold
it.
on, hold
No,
on, hold
no,
on.
let him roll. Let him roll. Let him
Did
roll.
you just ask permission?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you never need permission. You can
You
absolutely.
just
Oh, that's
fucking
cool.
hammer
Yeah.
it, bruh.
So I don't
Full
even know,
send all
Jackson.
time.
You might have actually. Well, maybe you wouldn't, but either way. So there's this 101st Colonel. I believe what Jackson, you know better than I am. What brigade commander?
What has it been? Started with an S?
Yes,
Right.
Ended with an
brigade
E?
Like
commanders.
I have no idea.
We're not going down that road, but yes.
Either way, right? He happens to be a great pistol shooter. And so he brings all of his dudes out to the range, and he has a really interesting technique, and I generally agree with it. So just like you said, hey, yes, you got to be good at irons, you got to know the basics, you got to know a map and a compass. I got it. I agree with you. However, he started his dudes and people, let's call it people, whatever. He started them off with
Minions.
no kit and a red dot. Made him start freaking hitting steel. Ding, 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 ding. So then all of a sudden they're having fun.
Confidence.
Yep. And then he's like, okay, now
Yep.
we're going to learn the hard thing. And that's how you put this thing in front of those things and do the other thing. And so I don't disagree with at least the training method of like making it fun before you make it hard.
Yeah, so like, I understand that because sight
Oh, I
picture,
agree.
sight alignment, that's difficult and it's boring when
Yep.
you teach to that. But when you do
Well,
the other one where it's
I
like
think-
you're just point and shoot and you're just using your sight alignment based on your visual natural alignment, it makes it more fun because then you're not doing a lot of thinking and you're just plinking.
Now, this is where I agree
Well,
with
I
what
think
Trey
that-
said and what Jackson both said, right? And this is coming from my pappy, and I'm sorry I interrupted you, Jackson. This is coming from growing up on
You're
the
good.
farm, right, and being taught, right?
Mhm.
My pappy taught hunting, fishing, everything, right? His method was you learned, just like you said. I'm going to teach you the simplest, easiest way to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Keep it simple, stupid.
And no. And I'm gonna get to that, right? It's simple, Simon. You're right, But it's or simple, stupid, right? You keep it simple. You break it down Barney style, right? Because why? Because it's easy for you to learn
and retain.
And then you retain it, and you're like, "Oh shit, I'm having fun. This is easy. I'm a badass."
Well, it's the same thing with sports.
But hang on, right? True. But then it's like, and this is where I feel like a lot of courses should implement this shit. Yeah. It's like, okay, now I'm going to, now you got your ego. You're built up because you're doing good.
Well,
now
that's the thing with most people. We have the ego going.
But
so
it's like,
tough.
now I'm going to humble your ass and you're going to eat that humble pie, right?
Yeah.
And my pappy, you don't want to eat it? Well, fine. I'm going to shove it down your throat. You're going to set out. You're going to sit out here and you're going to shoot 100. You're going to shoot these next 20 boxes of ammo. I don't care if you hit shit. You're going to shoot all 20 boxes of ammo because you gave attitude.
Yep.
You're going to learn humility and you're going to appreciate the easiness of that technique, but you're also going to understand and appreciate that easiness of that technique is not always available.
Right. That ties into the gun safety portion.
I interrupted Jackson.
I know. Jackson, what do you got to say? Sorry.
I was going to say, like, when it comes to Army ranges, and especially from a conventional side, that was my big pet peeve, was yelling on ranges. And, like, I have a story that goes with it. I was at Bliss at the time, and they always tasked the infantry dudes to NCOs out to run the range for the support guys. I had this, I think she was from Africa, and she didn't speak English real well. She'd been like Dan, never held guns before she joined the military. And this other team leader, he was just screaming because she wasn't getting it. And I finally tapped him out, and I was like, let me give it a go. I sat down next to her. I was like, are you having fun right now? And she was like, shook her head. She was like, no, not at all. She was terrified.
Yeah.
I was like, well, let's just have some fun with it. And I broke it down like that. I told her take her kit off, which she shouldn't have been wearing anyways on a group and zero range. And I was like, let's just have some fun with it. And lo and behold, once she got herself grouped in zero, we went out to the qual range, and she ended up shooting like sharpshooter for a support person who'd never touched a gun before they joined.
Yep.
Like I'd say that's a pretty good day for a support.
Absolutely, that's important.
And that just brought me. It reinforced all of it. I was like, why are you gonna scare people on a range
where it's already a tense environment? You know what I mean? Especially for a noob. Like somebody that's a non
you've got a controlled
holder.
explosion.
Yeah,
and you're trying to do it over and over and over again, and not.
Yeah, and it's freaky because you see the videos out there of people that have the gun go off and it blows the barrel up and everything else. And so I mean, I get it. There's a level of fucking
and then you had
anticipation and scaredness there.
Like that's So like I'm a big fan of, like Trey said, like go ahead and let them have some fun and build their confidence up, and then introduce them to a harder task.
What you got, Ryan?
But I think that segues into your next segment of gun safety.
This has to be edited, but I have to ask before I forget it. Advanced carbine. You're still doing it.
Yep.
What? Okay. All right.
I want to do something.
Yeah, we can talk about it later.
Yes. But I had to say it before.
All right. Advanced carbine.
If I forget, then I forget about it.
All right. So gun safety, that's always anybody that deals with gun. That's the paramount thing, right? Safety. That's always what we taught. It's what we teach. Anytime I teach people to shoot guns, that's the first lesson that I give them is gun safety, right?
100%.
Everybody here agrees that don't ever point at anything unless you want. Don't point at anything unless you wish it dead or destroyed.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
That's good.
Yep.
Well, I could qualify that a little bit.
What?
So in the CQB environment, sometimes your muzzle does pass things that you don't want to destroy, but it's understood that it's okay. You try not to make it happen, but it can happen.
There's a little flagging that does happen, right? But that's where the Navy SEALs try to train the Green Berets in the high port versus low port, right?
So you can go through both of them. Right now, the
I
low
kinda
ready
wanna
is better
throw
than the
up.
high, although I'm more comfortable with the high, but the low is apparently faster now.
So, okay. So what is being trained right now in the kill house? What is the preferred method?
Low ready.
Low ready is the preferred method.
Yes, sir.
And when we say the kill house, are we talking cephalic here?
Yeah, cephalic.
Okay. For those that don't know, what is
CQB
cephalic?
environment.
CQB, which is close quarters combat. For those that aren't
Yeah, like
familiar with,
urban combat inside of a house.
yeah. Do you leave your gun loaded or unloaded in your house, Trey?
Both.
And why would you do both?
Because sometimes he gets lucky and other times he don't.
No, generally speaking, I've got one in the pipe.
Uh-huh.
Reason being is I've also taught my children not to mess with it unless they want to. And if they want to, then they ask.
Okay.
So I don't make it a secret.
Yep.
And so because it's not a secret or something scary, then they generally are good with like, hey, can I do the thing? And I say, absolutely. However, I also have a 1.5 or 18-month-old.
Uh-huh.
So that one doesn't know.
Right. Not yet.
So those are either out of reach or in the safe.
Okay.
But generally speaking, if I have a gun in the house, it's going to be hot.
Prior to children,
Yes,
did you leave them loaded all the time?
all the time.
And why was that?
So just because it's faster.
Okay. So for efficiency's sake, you left them
Efficiency.
loaded, right?
Yep.
It's kind of like one of those things when you're concealed carrying, one in its chamber versus not, right?
Correct. I don't mind either or. I think it kind of goes down to the like the holster or the holster or like the hip versus appendix, whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. And I think this is a really great way that
It's just the way you train.
a long time ago, a guy was like, you can tell me the caliber of my gun as it's going through your eye. Right. So the point of that is that I'm good with what I have in my hands. So you can argue with me that after I've put you on the floor.
Okay. I
Right.
like that.
Again,
I like
so
the methodology.
Regardless whether it's appendix, if it's behind you, if it's on your kidneys, if it's doesn't matter. As soon as I'm good with it, I'm going to burn you down.
Once I'm lethal, then that's it.
Done deal.
Okay.
Right. So if you're good with carrying with empty chamber, that's great. You just train that way, and that's how you go. If that's what your preference is.
Okay.
If you're happy with having one in the pipe, you do it that way, and as long as you're good with it, it's all good.
Okay. Ryan, how do you normally rock it? Do you leave them loaded or unloaded?
So pistol wise,
Yeah.
I always have a loaded pistol. Shotgun wise, because I tend to keep a pump shotgun around, it stays unloaded.
Yeah.
And the reason behind the pump shotgun is that quintessential. You get to hear that rack coming down the hallway, right?
That's that scare tactic.
Statistically, that is one of the most intimidating sounds.
Oh, 100%. I agree.
I don't know about on the planet, but in the United States, the racking of a shotgun in the dark is one of the most intimidating sounds people say.
I think the most intimidating sound is I'm pregnant.
Well, I mean, that's for you. But for me, right, I always have a pistol that's beside me that's racked, right?
Right.
But I like that shotgun that's right there, too. Because when I rack that round, by God.
Right.
You aren't back out the way you came in, I'm about to take this round that's coming out of this 12 gauge, and I'm going to.
Now, do you put slug
you.
or buck, or what do you put in that?
Alternate.
Oh, you alternate. Okay.
So your first round you're getting is usually buckshot, just because I want
just a warning.
Yeah,
okay.
I want max coverage.
You guys might be familiar with it, and I know that they make it in 410 because I had a judge for a while.
Oh yeah.
The Commander made by Smith & Wesson now can do like 45 and 410.
So you have the Taurus judge that does it's the revolver.
Yep.
It does 410 and it does 45 long Colt.
Yep.
You have the circuit judge.
Circuit judge
made by Rossi, which is a shotgun revolver.
I'm talking about the revolver.
It's a shotgun revolver that does 410.
Yeah, but the 410 they have like different cartridges
But you only
that
go
you
up
put
to
in there
triple.
that have different loads.
Winchester PDX-1
Mhm.
shoots 3 discs and BBs.
Yes.
Yeah, and they even have ones that do fletchets.
Flechettes, yeah, for
or
sure.
flechettes, or however the
But
French say it.
But
Yeah,
see, I can
check.
take. See, the difference here is
Oui.
I can take my 12 gauge and I can run triple aught buckshot down the hallway.
Well, you can also get PDX ones for those too.
Yes, you can.
Oh yeah.
You know, I'd love to. I would love to have
But
a
let me-
5.7.
What I'm getting at,
That would
all
be
right.
great
So let's
for it.
let's back it up here, right? So your shotgun pattern, based off what you're
Yeah.
shooting, you have a pattern,
Mhm.
right?
There's a spread pattern normally,
Right.
yeah,
So
right.
if I'm shooting,
And I'll let you put a choke on there or
if
whatever.
I'm shooting 9 pea-sized lead pellets
Mhm.
down a 24-inch wide hallway in a
Someone's gonna get something.
9-foot, 9-panel configuration,
Yeah.
3-3-3,
Someone's-
3x3 configuration.
Someone's
You're
gonna hate
getting
their life.
something.
Yeah.
The next thing that's coming down that hallway is a 12 gauge slug.
Okay.
Okay,
That's kind of why I like
All right.
revolvers for my wife.
Yeah.
Revolvers
Yeah,
aren't
well,
very-
revolvers
Right,
are
because-
simple because you
'cause
know
you-
jam.
You don't even have to just. I'm gonna put those things in there, and all you have to do is just like squeeze in the general direction,
Yeah.
and you're gonna catch something.
Right. Yeah. What about you, Jackson?
Oh, I think my preference is always around safety. Me and my girlfriend, who I'm probably gonna marry, we are here alone. We don't have any kids, and when kids come visit, they're all old. Most of our friends' kids are old enough that we can explain to them. If you just ask, you can see whatever you want in the house.
So when you say
especially the
round
guns,
safety,
but,
you wrap it till you unload.
Sure. But we have predators out here. We're right against the Bighorn Mountains,
Mhm.
and we have lynx, we have bobcats, we have mountain. So I keep the 30 and the shotgun loaded right at the front door on a gun rack because I've had to use them before, and it's just different. If me and Nan end up having kids,
Yeah.
we'll lock away unnecessary guns, and we'll keep the necessary guns loaded.
Uh-huh.
And I believe in Trey's philosophy of when you're raising kids, you teach them that it's not this big scary thing. All they gotta do is ask, and they can touch it.
Right.
The thing.
So
Like
on
it's
that
It's
point,
just another thing in the house.
on that point of leaving them loaded, when you guys go to clean your guns, are you worried about an AD, accidental discharge?
I'm never no.
There's no such thing as an AD. The only thing you have an AD with is with a woman. Like,
That's called premature ejaculation.
if a
But
gun,
that's
happens
different.
frequently.
Yeah.
yeah, that's an AD. That's AD.
That's a total different
Like-
type. Hey, there's 4 fundamentals. Okay, there's 4 fundamentals.
That means your pull out
Right.
game is weak.
There's 4 fundamentals, and those do not
Oh,
translate
boy,
to your
what did
pullout
I
game.
open up?
I haven't seen your underside in like a month, so yeah, that's 2 seconds long. It's 2 seconds more than you needed.
Yeah, no, no.
All right. So best gun suited for home defense. Trey, what would you say is the best suited gun if you were doing home defense? Because everybody knows when you're doing home defense, you have to worry about your loved ones, right? And so if they're across the house, let's say you have kids and you have a split house, right? You have the master on one side and the kids' rooms on the other side.
Exactly what we have. Yep.
And you have an intruder that comes in and you're worried about rounds going through walls and penetrating before you can get your kids to safety. What is the best home defense gun or home defense round that you would use in that type of scenario?
So to be honest, I have no idea because I've never done it. However, if I was going to choose one, it would be that revolver with some version of a shotgun shell.
Okay. Yeah.
As long as you know what's beyond your target.
And that's one of those things
a tough
when
one.
we talk about gun safety and stuff, knowing where your foreground and your aft ground.
It would definitely be some version of a soft point, maybe even a subsonic, something
Mhm.
to get effect, probably more scary than anything else, just to stop whatever is going. So that way,
So
you
like a
can put
bird
yourself-
shot, maybe.
Yeah,
Just
like the PDX one is something that I like. I'm not trying to tout this thing. I'm not.
No,
paying
that's fine.
Winchester, but like 3 discs and BBs.
Mhm.
If you get hit with a disc,
So what do you think about frangible rounds? Frangible rounds, is it
I
something
think
that,
I think they're awesome.
so you think that would be an
Yeah,
effective
even
home
a
defense
soft-
round? Or?
Even a soft point. If I were to like just want a caliber, let's say I wanted a 30-30,
Mhm.
but I wanted to use it for home defense because I'm really good with a lever action, I would use soft points.
Okay.
some type of hunting round.
So no,
Because that's gonna
no
transfer
full metal
energy.
jackets, no
Nope,
penetrating rounds at all,
nothing.
because they're gonna travel until they stop and
Yep.
does something.
What you want is
dense.
energy transfer, 100%.
Right.
And so the soft points that you can get, man, as long as they can transfer 100% of the energy, then it's not going through, and so anything behind that is not going to play.
Jackson, you concur with that, or do you have a different viewpoint as a infantryman?
No, I agree 100%. Like if shotgun rounds dissipate really quick, even with the 12 gauge. I mean, I'd even venture to say hollow points. It really just depends on how
100%.
your house is built. Are you in like a lightweight construction place,
Mhm.
or are you on like an old ranch house like I am that has solid beam trusses? Like and I have plaster walls, so I can go ahead and I can blast my hollow points out of my pistol, and know that it's probably going to stop whatever it hits.
Yeah, I mean, it's all
So, or
subjective
it's
to
not
where
gonna
you're
go
at, right?
beyond it far.
Yeah, but you already outlined.
I think that
You already
I did
outlined
give
the
parameters. I did
You
give
already
parameters,
outlined the
yeah.
parameters.
But it's still subjective as to where you are at. Like if you're in a brick building and you're an apartment complex, I mean, you might be worried about shooting a round off and it goes through and it
think
might
that's-
accidentally go into like 3 apartment rooms
But
next to you.
The easiest way to do that is just say, what is the best
That's-
overall home defense weapon?
I think it's that 410 revolver.
Yeah. Just because it's
Anything with a laser,
I guess
too.
Yeah.
okay.
Like an actual visible laser.
So you guys wouldn't
I
do
think
you
you
guys
I
wouldn't
can just go
do
around
My
the
pet-
corner.
you guys
I
wouldn't
can
do
just
like
that.
a
There's a dot over there. Start
I
squeezing.
will
so
say
you guys
this.
wouldn't do like rubber bullets. You wouldn't do anything like
Why am I
anything.
gonna do rubber bullets?
I'm just saying, yeah. I'm just saying because
Why?
No, because-
some people out
I
there
don't
might.
care.
I'm trying
I
to
don't
make
care.
you bleed.
I'm
I
just
don't care.
saying. The people.
You fell through my
If you have
sunroof
not-
and
if
cut
you have
yourself?
not-
No. We're gonna make sure there's no more.
Right,
cut.
but there are people out there that are gonna be like, "Oh, well, why would you use rubber bullets? Why wouldn't you use pepper spray?
don't
Why
care.
wouldn't
Now,
you
Matt
use
just
this?"
sound like
And it's like, well, I'm defending my
Matt
home,
just sound like a.
and depending on where I live at in the
I
country,
think it's the audacity.
What
Yeah.
you say, Jackson?
I think it's the audacity of somebody wanting to come into my home that's my safe place.
right? And
Like, I think no matter where you are on the political spectrum, I think no matter how liberal you are, or how conservative you are, that's one thing everybody can agree on is they feel safest in their home.
right.
And if you have the audacity to take that safety away from me,
Mm,
then I get to. It's my turn to choose.
right.
You made your choice of taking that away from me.
Okay.
So I get to choose how I handle the situation, and nobody else can judge you on that.
Yes, sir.
No, I agree.
Like, I'm gonna give you.
I
the
agree.
Courtesy,
I'm just being devil's advocate. That's pretty much what I try to do.
Devil's advocate, smells advocate on
and-
this shit.
Nah.
I am 100%. I am a firm believer in your warning is the rack of the round out of my 12 gauge. That is your
Well,
warning.
that's you, but
That's
I'm
it.
just saying,
But we're
if
talking
I'm
because
trying to if
you're
I'm
asking
trying
preferences here, I'm giving you mine.
right,
Mine is that firm rack of that 12 gauge.
okay,
I wouldn't.
Right?
I wouldn't even give him a warning.
that's
But
I'm with Trey on this.
I
No,
I
I
like the
think
element
that's-
of surprise,
that's
and
why I
I don't
said
want to
the
give my
premise-
position away, so I'm not going
I
to
do
have
too.
anything that's going to tell you where I'm at for audible or otherwise, because I know the layout of my house, and if I hear you break into my house,
If I hear you and
Yeah.
I'm racking a 12 gauge, you're dead already.
well, you're
you're not getting back out where you came from
Right.
before I shoot you.
right.
I think we're generally agreeing anyway.
So we're
Yeah,
we're
I
100% in agreement. If you enter our domains,
You're dead.
You do not leave. Period.
Dead
Right?
men don't
In
talk,
agreeance, right?
right?
Now,
Yeah,
if
I
I
mean-
was in a bigger house, if I was in a bigger place than what I am in, and I have kids and whatnot, then by all means, I'm going to run my 45,
Okay,
and I'm going to punch a 45 hollow point right through you.
all right. So you're hollow point,
Right.
You're 410. Jackson sounds like he's also a
I
frangible
think
or
He's hollow
410.
point
or a French.
frangible, right?
Yeah.
Or a French.
Some
I think
frangible
I
round.
think
I-
a 300 blackout has some
I
pretty
think
cool
like-
applications.
I think that would be a good application because everybody likes an AR platform, and you
I
can run that and rock it and
What
fucking.
you got, Jackson?
Well, I think at the end of the day, when it comes to kids and your family,
Mhm.
is like Nan and I rehearsed it of what happens. We do it in the car. What happens if somebody comes up to our vehicle?
Mhm.
We do it with the house of what happens if some, and we have full intentions of when we have kids
Yep.
because we've talked about
That's
it.
smart.
Of we'll rehearse it just like a fire drill.
Well, and that's
you
something
know?
we're taught in the
If
military is you got to
hear this
rehearse with
noise,
that way you're not caught with your pants
Yeah,
down and don't know
you
what the
rehearse
fuck to do.
everything.
100%. If you walk
know,
up to my vehicle
Yeah.
and I am not on
Oh,
base,
you're in trouble. You're in
like
trouble.
100%. I have practiced, and I will say this, and I will
I have a gun pointed at the door
I
waiting.
will credit this to Jackson. I will credit this to Jackson 100%. I have a 45 with
Let's be
hollow
careful here.
points
Yeah.
that is going to bust your gut before you even get
Right.
to my door.
Yeah, see, we're all
It's right
all
here,
trained
and
in like
boom,
a
boom,
similar
boom.
mentality. It's like
it's there.
I'm taking you down before you can take me down
Oh,
because
come on.
I prefer to live
Yeah,
because I have something to live for.
As
So
soon as I see the threat,
I-
I've assessed.
right,
Because just like the military teaches
Yeah.
you have this window to assess,
Well,
right?
it's a millisecond to
Yeah.
assess
I
too.
want to adjust this a little bit.
Oh,
Okay.
let's hear
Right?
it.
Because we got a bunch of testosterone.
Yeah.
Jackson, you can tell me what you think too. But
All our
Have
dicks
you
are getting
seen-
hard right
Oh,
now.
oh, oh,
And I love
Have you
testosterone.
seen my gut? How much testosterone do you think we have here? Okay.
You probably got more than some.
Hey, Matt, it's
I ain't
not,
gonna
it's
deny
not a beer
that, 'cause
belly.
I can still
You'll tank
perform
for a
very
second.
well.
Anyway, go ahead, Trey.
However, what has been taught or what is being taught is kind of the preferred technique as far as when it comes to an engagement in a civil environment is actually is actually time and space.
Yeah.
So
No, it's important.
like
Yeah.
if you can just get away from it,
Yep.
then that's better than actually doing the thing.
Yeah, running is better than engaging in most
100%.
Yeah.
most instances. Running is better than engaging, and that's not just in the military, but they're even teaching that in schools. They're teaching that to police departments. That's a methodology that's being passed along. Is that fleeing
I
the
think-
scene is 9 times out of 10 safer for you to
You know-
survive for survivability's
So,
I
sake,
have
right?
to say,
Now, if you're worried about taking down the predator or
Oh,
whoever
boy.
it is,
Or if my kids are behind me,
then
no,
sure,
dude,
I'm standing
Yeah,
my
I'm standing
ground
right there,
and
I'm
I'm
burning
taking
you down
yeah,
until it's done.
and
What do
then
you got,
I
Jackson?
will fucking take
100%.
20 bullets in me,
100%.
and I will they can get as far away from the point of contact
What
as,
you got?
as they can, but
we got Jackson.
So I think this goes into another segment of personal protection and defense because none of this is offensive. I think that should be another thing that's blatantly put out here in this podcast. Like it's all about protecting, and you're in a defensive mindset of defending your family, your home, or wherever. But I think what most people don't get into is they go to the range, they learn how to shoot, they get certified, they dry fire, all this good jazz, and they're like, all right, I'm good to go. But they don't pay attention to other skills that could prevent the whole situation in the first place is situational awareness,
right.
security measures in your home, how you present yourself when you're in public. Like I haven't got picked on at a bar, and I'm in a place where you have a bunch of hothead wannabe cowboys and stuff.
Yeah, but
And
when
I
I
don't
look
get
at you,
picked on at
you're
bars just
unavailable, and I'm not attracted to you, so I'm not going to hit on you.
You're an idiot.
Yeah,
God.
exactly. Well, I mean, he's right in some senses. I mean, I always go when people ask me about this subject. I always go with one: if you're going to carry something every day, practice carrying a tourniquet, because there's no such thing as a tourniquet-free zone.
No, and I
And,
have
you
I have
know,
plenty
like,
of those
in
in my
America,
vehicles,
like-
and I think I attribute that to the same thing as everyone else in this room is that TCCC teaches you that preparedness is essential because without that, you're left with your pants down in the worst possible moments. And I think you can agree to that.
Well, I think it's America. Like you have such an availability of healthcare. Why would you bleed out? It's the dumbest thing to bleed out. I'm a huge fan of North American Rescue.
Nobody's
pushing
gonna
the,
bleed out
Stop the Bleed
anymore, you know what I
campaign
mean?
And all that. Like,
Like
yeah,
we're taught
but,
if you get shot,
can if you don't
like we're even taught.
if you don't have a simple device like
Right.
a $30 tourniquet
Yep.
available to you, you very well could bleed out.
Or a
And
belt.
it's ridiculous of why, and the stigma of you have to worry about a mass shooting or whatever and need a tourniquet, then it's just ridiculous. I've seen people cut themselves in the kitchen.
You know
I've seen people cut.
you know-
I've been to parties where I've cut myself with a chainsaw.
You know, my favorite thing to carry
you can't
is
get away from the fact
my favorite
What?
thing to carry is a tampon.
a condom.
Tampons.
Oh,
You know why?
I mean,
Stops
Yeah.
bleeding.
It stops
Why?
bleeding.
Because they absorb blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you get
You're not-
shot,
I
and
think
you're in an instance, especially in a combat area, and you get shot, a tampon is like it's the best thing to have because
They
it's
definitely
it's
have their
literally
purpose.
it literally has the applicator attached to it, and you can thrust it into whatever hole that you have, stop the bleeding, and carry
Well,
on with your whatever you're
I
going
think-
on with. And then a guy that's sitting there or gal
I-
that's sitting there that has a sucking chest wound, obviously going to do extra for a sucking chest wound. But say you have a gut shot,
Probably not, obviously. to
Yeah,
a lot of
but-
people.
but if you have a gut shot and it doesn't penetrate, and you're like, okay, let me just stick this tampon in there, and I can stop the bleeding, at
Hopefully.
least stem it a little bit, and then if I have quick clot or something else, maybe it is I help the rest of it. But
911.
I think if you're in a civilian environment and you have a tampon on you, a tourniquet on you, and maybe some quick clot on you, those are great preventative methods.
you're gonna survive.
Yeah, I think those are great preventative things to
Oh,
have
yeah.
on you. And people that drive on a normal road day to day, they don't think of these things. But that's something we all think about because
No.
that's what we were trained to think about. It's like, hey, how can I save a life?
Yeah.
What do I need at my disposal right now, instantaneously, that will save a life?
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, if you go in any of our vehicles,
There's a truck bag.
there's a go bag, there's a shooter bag, there's a medic bag, there's whatever bag it is. We all have something in our vehicle ready to help remedy somebody that's in distress.
And
Whether it's a I need make a makeshift stretcher because I have a wool whoopee in my vehicle, or a wool blanket. I need to do a makeshift medic right now. I've got to get an IV ready because a lot of the guys that are infantry or Green Beret or whatever, they usually have some method that they can get you ready to accept
We
an
actually
IV.
don't do fluids anymore.
Really?
True story.
That's not a trained thing anymore?
They don't.
No.
They don't train it anymore.
What?
It
No,
is
it's,
and
it's
it
not a training
isn't.
thing. We just don't push fluids.
It
right away.
is and it isn't.
Really?
Fact.
Holy
So you
shit.
you don't push. Fluids have come full circle. So the cool part about
Really?
my experience,
Yeah, you don't
I'll
push 'em.
adjunct real quick, is I was a fireman
I'm old.
right outside DC before I joined the Army, and then I got my EMT before I was a fireman. And then when I got to 10th Mountain, they're like, "Oh, cool, you got your EMT. We're gonna send you this advanced medic course." So I got to do like cool medical stuff and have those opportunities as well as doing the infantry thing. And one of those things that's come full circle is you watch MASH, and all they did was try to push blood, and then now you got the beginning of GWAT, and everybody pushed IV fluids, and they realized that was a bad idea, so they just stopped everybody pushing fluids
Interesting.
because they're causing more harm than good.
Hmm.
So now it's slowly starting to come back into it of pushing some kind of fluid, but the concentration's more on blood.
Yeah.
They have these things called vampire kits.
Yep.
And they teach you that you're gonna go replace blood before you push saline any day of the week.
100%.
You'll start a line because you can push a lot of great things, like you can push ketamine and it doesn't have any of the contraindications of fentanyl or morphine
No,
or any
that's
of those
true,
other pain meds. And you can go ahead and push TXA, which is a anti-clot or clotting thing, so you're not blowing clots when you're pushing fluids. You can push ernapenem, which is a broad spectrum antibiotic. But the idea of I gotta replace fluids because they lost a bunch of fluids, that's kind of out the door. And for people who aren't trained in that realm, they do, to Trey's point, say don't try to push fluids right away, because it's better to try to keep blood inside the body and keep them breathing first instead of trying to fix it with this man-made stuff.
Okay, so the
It's much
triage
better in the
the
body
triage
than out
that's
the
being
body,
taught
and
now is
it
different than what I was taught.
It's different than when we all came in.
Yeah,
That's
And
weird.
all four of us. The triage
Yeah,
now is
it's-
different. But part of that
it's-
is like any other training.
it's radically
Things
different.
adapt, things change.
Well, yeah, because now I know when I did CPR, right? let's cover that real quick. This is a segue off the fucking topic, but CPR used to be taught 20 compressions and then a couple breaths, and then compressions for the chest, and then a couple breaths. But
I never got taught CPR.
so now I think it's just all breaths. I don't think there's any sort of chest compressions at all.
No, it's opposite, Dan.
Oh, it is
So,
opposite. So it's all
you
chest
can go up
compressions
to-
and not.
It is opposite.
You're talking to a firefighter.
So
No, that's good.
Your blood can keep, or your
Your
blood can
brain.
keep oxygen in it for up to 10 minutes without breathing.
Okay.
No, your blood. The O2 that comes through your pulmonary vein,
Yep.
because that's also backwards, keeps oxygen in it longer. So it's better to go ahead and keep compressing the chest and circulating blood throughout the body than it is to waste your time, because most of the time, unless you have a bag valve mask or you're going to get an advanced airway, you're not, mouth to mouth isn't going to give you effective oxygen exchange in the lungs. So it's better off for you to spend the first 10 minutes to keep circulating the oxygenated blood that's in there
Right.
than it is to try to waste your time with these wasted breaths.
Dude,
So
are the
you
breaths out
compress
just
for
like
10 minutes at
CO2? Do they actually have anything that would help you? Like if I'm sucking on your face and blowing air into your lungs, it's all exhaled, so there's not a lot of oxygen in there, right?
Exhaled stuff still has oxygen in it, and it's still.
So unless
I
it's
think
like
that
the
they say
bag that you
average
put on your
oxygen level
face.
air-
What if you do that bag with the
the
mask?
bag valve mask.
Yeah, the bag valve mask. That
The
would be
bag valve
better
mask?
than me blowing in
Yeah.
your face, right?
I'm just saying, if Trey blows in my face,
1,000%.
there's something else coming up other than my chest.
He's blowing nuts in your face. That's different.
I'm
No,
willing to rope.
I'm totally saying,
Yeah,
rather than my
1,000%.
chest rising, something else is going to be rising. all
So
right?
Hopefully not
if
with
I'm
me.
a new gun
boy.
owner, guys, if I'm a new gun owner and I want to overcome my fears of
Buy a
gun
tourniquet.
ownership,
Mm.
what would you recommend?
I got this.
How-
Wait.
No,
I want to know your
Mm.
truck gun.
no, we're gonna get
Let
back to.
Trey
We'll
have
go
it.
back to that, but.
Okay.
No, let Trey have it.
I want Trey to.
Trey
I want
says
Trey
got
to elaborate on the question I
Okay.
just fired off there. That was a fire and forget question.
So I actually got this.
Okay.
So I did reloading for a while. I had an S corp, which is essentially like an LLC but different, but the same. So anyway, point being, I made ammo for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and through that, that's when you get into, and guys that either reload or shoot USPSA or whatever it is, they all know this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a heavy bullet and you make it go subsonic,
Okay.
and it's nice and soft.
Yeah.
Teach women, teach kids, teach anybody that doesn't or might be scared of some version of an explosion, because unless you're running some version of a, they would call a compensator or a muzzle brake, but really it's a compensator on a pistol, you're going to get a controlled explosion in your hand. So you run things that are a little bit softer. It takes some stuff, but you run soft ammo and it's super cool.
Okay. So that is your method for helping new gun owners that are afraid.
I'm not
Is
scared.
to use something subsonic
Go find subsonic ammo and it will change your life.
and then migrate progressively from the subsonic to supersonic ammo.
This, yeah. At the end of the day, not at the end of the day, but anything defense is
Uh-huh.
probably going to be like a lower grain weight bullet. So
Right.
it's going to be lighter, the
Mhm.
projectile itself, but it's going to be going faster.
So let's
it
say
transfers energy.
if I have a new shooter, right, and I want to make it the least amount of intimidation for them,
Yep.
I would put them behind a 22
Yep.
and make it a 22 subsonic,
Yep.
suppressed 22 subsonic.
100%.
That way, it has the least amount of fear factor.
No, when you say suppress subsonic, are we talking putting a suppressor on your 22?
Absolutely. Yeah.
In addition to the subs.
Yeah,
Mhm.
speaking your
Absolutely.
microphone.
Yeah. You'll barely hear it.
Really? So add a suppressor in addition to the subs.
I wouldn't do that.
Yes.
I wouldn't do that on a pistol, just because it like adds a lot of muzzle weight, which kind of
Right,
changes.
but
things.
for a
Right.
long
for a
gun,
long gun.
100%.
on
Really?
on a pistol, just subsonic ammo, and it'll be a world of difference.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of
get the
success with that.
subsonic
I can
ammo,
tell you.
but the suppressor kind of threw me off.
Yeah. When it comes to
I can tell you how I did. I can tell you how I did with my mom because my dad passed away.
Mhm.
So obviously my mom was alone, and she was kind of like, well, I don't have my protector around anymore. So she was what, in her late 50s, learning how to use a gun, which is,
Yeah.
I'd argue, more scary than a younger child trying to use a gun, learn how to use a gun. And what we really hammered on was we dry fired for like 3 weeks before we ever went to the range.
Right.
Every single night, it was, here's how you load.
Did you put
here's
the
how
Did you
you
put the penny
reload,
on
here's
the
how you safely
barrel?
handle it. No, because I got her. I started her on my Glock 19X, and then she ended up buying a 43X.
So
And we dry fired for like 3 weeks straight, where she was getting used to the rack of the slide with loading, and we were using dummy rounds, obviously. And she got used to dry firing. She got her form right. So by the time we got to the range, we had done step 1 through 9. All she had to do is make the thing go bang.
right.
So
I don't know
it
what
was
I don't know
way
what step
easier
1 through
to
9 is,
manage
Jackson.
her getting over the
What's 1 through 9? I know 1 through
step 1
4.
through 9.
Yeah, I know 1 through 4. What's 1 through 9?
Okay, I was hypothetically.
Oh,
going
okay,
1 through
gotcha.
9. I was just saying there's. Yeah, you go through the aforementioned.
Well,
steps of
there's
shooting.
like you gotta
You
cup
go-
the balls. You gotta, there's a lot to it.
Gotta stroke, gotta move, gotta.
Yeah, you
I'm
gotta
just
spit on
saying-
it.
I was
You
going
gotta
more for
I'm just
draws.
saying you totally set yourself up.
move
for that
one hand down, one forward. It's a lot. There's a lot
I
there.
thought there were
did.
9
I
steps,
did
and I was
set
like, what
myself
are
up.
they? Because I don't know them.
Yeah,
See,
no.
we're talking technical here, and you fucked it up with 9 steps.
No,
My
Yeah.
God.
there.
My God. All right,
you can
Jackson.
you can
so,
break draws down to 9 steps,
so
but
you,
anyways, you
There
do that,
are
and
8
that
things
works.
that require a good position.
gentlemen, what is the best truck gun? If you're going to have
I want to
one,
hear yours first.
I will give mine first.
First.
But think about this. All
Mhm.
4 of you, think about this. Best truck gun. For me, the best truck gun is my pistol. Whatever I'm carrying on me for my personal carry is going to be my best truck gun. Now, if we're talking best truck gun for backup to my pistol, it's going to be some sort of rifle that I have on me. But best truck gun in my mind is whatever I have on my person.
Okay. Now I look at truck gun, right? Because when we talk truck guns, people don't talk truck guns as in pistol, right? They talk truck guns as in a gun that is designed to maneuver and shoot from inside the truck.
In a confined space of a truck, right?
Typically a higher caliber than a pistol,
Mhm.
right? For me, my preference is a 300 blackout all day long.
Okay.
I don't have the ricochet coming out of the glass that I do have that I have from a 5.56, so I don't have to worry about my round deviating
No,
or
that's fine.
anything if I have to punch through the glass.
Well,
Now,
you only really have to
granted-
worry about that on the first round. 'Cause
Yeah,
You put the muzzle to the glass,
I agree.
send it, and then from there on, there's no more.
Right.
glass.
Because now, if you repeat through the same area of
But there's
effect,
no
you're
guarantee.
It's
going to
only
have
through the front windshield. The other
But
ones are
there's
just break.
no
right.
there's no guarantee you're repeating through that same windshield.
Same. Well,
Depends
there-
what side you're going through.
if you're shooting
Right.
to the same
If
spot,
I'm
then
if I'm shooting through the front windshield, okay, cool. If I have to
traverse.
traverse inside the vehicle, we're talking
Right.
about changing, okay?
Well, normally when I'm
I
driving my
want-
side windows down anyway, so I don't have to worry
I
about
do too
anything.
because I don't have a working AC, okay? But what I'm getting at is I want maximum effectiveness out of that first round.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to necessarily wait for my second.
Yeah.
or
Well,
third
the first
round.
round's normally going to be a miss. And
Generally
it doesn't care. and
Generally
then-
speaking, if I'm not mistook in here, gunfights in the civilian world really only last about 3 rounds.
You're right.
Agreed. So
You're
why
right.
can't I make mine
Yep.
end in that first round with 300 blackout?
To be honest, you don't probably
You're-
have to.
Yeah. I
may
think
not
as soon as
have
you
to, but
present
why
the
not?
weapon, they're going to
I'm not
fucking
disagreeing
flee.
with you. I
But-
mean, I
But-
think the first round should be the most effective.
Exactly.
100%.
So if I want, so what I'm getting at is like, and I understand.
And I know they teach this in like the tier
You're
1
being
assets
rude.
that if you shoot at a certain angle, you can fucking make sure that that round is going to hit where you want it, your desired.
Yes, you're correct.
But for the
that still
average
doesn't mean it's
person.
going to hit, because if you're off by the slightest little
Yeah, but
hump
on a
hair,
tier
it
one
fucking goes
tier one
another way.
assets, they're taught exactly all those fucking
Even in
trajectory.
tier 2, tier 3s.
Yes,
we do
Yeah,
they're
they're-
still taught.
They're taught all
What
that
I'm
shit.
getting
At
at
the end of the
is
day, you're not going to do it.
You asked me-
Nobody.
You're just going to do whatever you think is best.
Exactly.
And
And what I think
Right.
is best for me and anyone else in my vehicle is a 300 blackout
All right, Trey, what do you think?
to punch out. Okay.
I tend to agree with you that the first thing that I'm going to go for is my pistol.
Mhm.
I don't generally run a truck gun.
Right.
I'm not saying that I shouldn't.
So then you don't
if
have a
I-
truck gun.
If I was going to run
That is a
truck
gun, dumbass.
So my 300 blackout right now isn't really printing as great as I want it to. So if I'm going to shoot in and around civilians that I don't want to shoot, I want to be pretty darn accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's going to be my 43X because I'm
Okay.
going to put that thing wherever
Effective
I want.
rounds
I'm going
on,
to put
on
that thing
target.
wherever I want it.
Okay, I agree. Jackson, what do you got?
Once again, we go back to like what I'm shooting. That's totally different than what your guys' main thread is.
Exactly.
I have my 30-30 in my truck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
I'd
know,
crush that all day too. That's
9
awesome.
times out of 10, if I'm getting out of my truck and shooting at something, it's probably a coyote or a bobcat or a lynx.
So it's a matter of
Three
where
main
your
ones that we
environment
really
is, and
do
that
that.
makes sense. I get that.
And even
Oh,
with that,
1000%.
I mean, Jackson, I'm not trying to, you know better than I do because you're actually in Wyoming, but I mean, I might even do something flatter, like a 243.
I have to
Yeah,
do a
I have a
17
243.
hammer.
It's my grandpa's one in the truck.
If I'm out in
The
Wyoming, I do a
30-30,
17
I
hammer.
don't know.
Oh, 17 HMR.
The 30-30, we get the negative temperatures, and my 30-30 is a semi-auto.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's nice.
I leave that gun in there all day long. And so I just know no matter what, I can rip on that thing and I'm going to put a round in it. And I've spent the time to be relatively efficient at it.
How is it out to 200?
And, you know, like it starts to drop
OBV?
pretty
Gravity's
heavily.
a thing?
But like, yeah, gravity's definitely a thing, but we're also at higher elevation.
Wait, I thought we were
is it
flat.
like-
I
is
thought
it
we were
like
on flat
spine?
Earth. I thought there's no such thing. In.
Yeah, is it like just hold spine or is it like hold over spine? Unlike call a coyote.
It's probably about. If I was gonna call a coyote, I'd probably just go over spine.
Yeah, I believe you.
But you know, like I can hit what I need to hit with it, and that's about what the time that I spend on the range. You know, but it's a tried and true. It's robust for the weather, and it's around that I can either shoot a coyote with it, or God forbid, we have grizzlies out here, or we have
Mhm.
wolves and
Right.
we have moose.
Yeah,
out
30-30 is a
It's
universal
just
thing. You know.
all around round.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I've had
Yeah, if I'm a
some
rancher,
idiots out
I
there trying to
think
argue
a 30-30 is a
that-
good round to carry.
Not to mention it's sexy as hell when you
Oh.
just like run
You
that
know what?
lever action and you're
Right? Have you seen the new
awesome.
lever action AR that they
Oh,
made?
yeah.
just no.
Oh my
You know what?
goodness. They came out with that for SHOT Show.
the modernized.
Oh my god.
Nothing beats an old school for our 84 30-30.
Yeah.
Nothing beats it.
You know what?
Do
My
you
man.
do you have a
In my
Marlin
opinion,
30-30 or
some-
do you have a Henry 30-30?
No, I have a Winchester 1894
Hell
30-40
yeah.
or 30-30.
All right.
Right?
All
That-
right.
I think it's dated. I checked the serial number. It's dated between like 1943 and 1945.
So when it comes
So-
to shooting,
so
how
it's a little
often
older.
how often
Hold
should
up, no.
how often should people go to the range to be an effective shooter? Anyway,
Yeah.
when it comes to going to the range, to make sure you're this is a skill that people don't understand. If you don't go to the range a lot, this is a skill that will immediately
Perishable.
perish within
Perish.
I don't know, let's say 3 months,
I think
of not
I think it depends
shooting.
on the person. Yeah.
right? If you only get 1,000 rounds to shoot and you break it across 3 months, you might be effective. In the military, we do a lot differently, but if you're a civilian, what is the most effective use of your time to go to the gun range to make sure that you're an effective shooter?
From like now on the civilian perspective,
Right.
oh man. Well, I guess my civilian life's a little different. I'm usually working 60 to 8 hours a week, so I don't get to shoot nearly as much as I used to.
Right.
I think that if you can't shoot as much as you want because of financial constraints or time constraints, that the best thing you fall back to is dry firing.
Okay.
Nothing like I dry fire more than I shoot these days because I just don't find the time to go to and I choose not to find the time to go to the range because I end up going out and messing with horses and stuff like that.
Mhm.
My priorities have
I
changed.
got two of
But
them.
you
I
know,
agree with you.
I still go out. I still go out at least like once a month
Mhm.
and go check and make sure what I carry every day as extremely as a priority is still functioning the way it needs to function, and that I'm still functioning with that piece of equipment the way that I need to
Mhm.
be effective when I need to use it.
That makes sense.
But that's my answer.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah. No, I don't think any of us would disagree with that.
Maybe one idea or maybe one way to do the same thing that you're talking about, Jackson, is try and make a mental receipt for every shot you take.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you've only got a few, so what
I like that.
So what did I do to make that thing effective or ineffective? And so make that receipt so that way you know it felt like this, it looked like this. And so if you can make that mental receipt, then you can either replicate it or not replicate it based on success or failure.
I like that. I like that a lot.
I really like that.
That's an amazing.
I think
that's amazing distinction right there. And I think that that's
I
something
think
that
the other thing
our
that
listeners would love to hear is that like when it's kind of like when you're doing sports and you're taking a shot, you're doing
What does it feel
a
like?
kick or what? Yeah, what? How did it feel like? What does it look like? What happened in that repetition? Can it be repeatable?
I think when it comes to guns too though, like, and I've even caught myself with it of I've already been this far in the process, just send it. And I've changed that mindset to
Right.
telling people and myself of if it doesn't feel right all the way to the very last step of it, then before you break that trigger, back off and start all over again.
No,
Like
I
don't
agree.
shoot it just
I agree.
because you've done all the steps up until the point of your trigger breaking to go ahead and send it. Just back off. There's nothing wrong with backing off your trigger and then going ahead and then just going through it all over again to make sure you're not wasting it.
Well, there's such a
I
thing
think
as muscle
that's
memory
my
for everything that we
thing
do,
I'd
right?
add on
Whether it be
Trey's.
lifting, whether it be running, whether it be our jobs, and you're pulling the trigger, doesn't matter. Whatever you're doing, you need to make sure from start to finish that repetition is precise. And if it's not, then
Yeah.
why are you doing it? So, yeah. What do you want?
think
What do you want,
not
Ryan?
every
Shake
shot,
your head at
and
me.
Trey
All
will
right, so
disagree.
let's put it from the enabler's perspective because you're the contractor that's not in anymore.
It doesn't
So
matter.
from the
I
guy-
still have a gun enthusiast perspective.
When I'm trying, I like this is actually
Don't fucking try to cut me down.
I'm gonna cut you down.
You can try, but you're not
What
going to
I'm
win
getting
on
at
this.
is that this is actually a serious moment.
You're
because the
still
fact
Army, and I'm
is-
still above you.
Not really. So
All
the
day
fact
long.
The fact is like what I'm getting at here is you have the soldiers who don't get the training implemented across the board,
Mm.
like you do, like I do, like they do, right?
Right.
Because we know people and we work together and
Right.
we practice and all this shit, right? Like 100%, I would put you any day of the week up against some of the GBs that I've had run through the competitions that I
Right.
run, right?
100%.
All
Right.
day. 100% would have you come out if I was allowed and have you pull trigger time all day long. The failure, and this is the failure in my opinion, because I am that enabler who sees the big picture.
Right.
You have all these enablers who don't know shit about any of the things we have just talked.
Right.
And you know why? because we're more focused on our instructors than training the people that enable us to do everything else.
Yeah, we're
Or
a lot
we're
of
more
mission focused.
We're mission focused. I won't even call it mission focused because you get so mission focused that you forget your support personnel and they can't do anything because they didn't get any training. How's that mission focused? You forgot them.
Mm.
Well, I would offer probably contradictory to that. Like, I don't need you to pull a trigger. I need you to do your job.
And whatever that job is, just do it to
Whatever
your
that
best of your
thing is,
ability.
just do that thing.
Yeah.
At the end of the
I'll-
day,
I agree with that.
I'll devil's advocate that
I would
though.
like to agree with that.
I'll
And
devil's
I
advocate
agree
on
with you
Matt's
actually,
behalf
because we've used enablers a lot for a lot of things, and they're totally unprepared, and it's our fault for doing that.
Mhm.
But also, if
'Cause
I
I
don't
look at
if
it-
I don't train you to do that, then I just want you to do.
Well, that's
your
why
job.
we have a lot of classroom before people
We don't.
deploy now.
I'll
We
double-
don't.
Well,
I'll-
let me caveat
double
that.
that
When
advocate.
I was in JSOC,
Jackson.
everybody would go through a class before they would go downrange because they
Yeah.
needed to make sure that they were spun up and informed
Yeah,
what they
but
were
that
getting
still
themselves
doesn't- it
into,
doesn't touch the
whether
iceberg,
they're a
'cause-
desk jockey or a fucking trigger puller or whatever. It was like, hey, you're part of this bigger conglomeration. We
Yes.
need to make sure that you know what you're getting into, and you need to go through classes 1 through 6 in order to be an effective enabler or an effective asset.
Mhm.
And that's just the way that was when I was over, in the fenced-in compound over there at Bragg. It's just the way we ran.
What you got, Jackson?
What happened over in Nigeria though happened like that was a ODA that was out and they had enablers, and I'd say like none of those dudes were cowards. I'll preface that
100%.
with that whole situation.
Shit
But
happens.
No.
but those dudes weren't, those enablers weren't prepared. But
Mhm.
like also you could look at Libya. You had the GRS guys that were working.
There's a
but
lot
none
of
those
episodes that we can.
We can go.
I said,
So what
and,
I'm,
you know, I know
we can go. And
that's where I devil advocate on
Yeah.
Matt's
We can
behalf.
go
No,
devil's
there's a
advocate.
lot of
So,
places.
all right.
Benghazi.
What
I mean,
I'm-
there's a ton
look,
of
what
them.
I'm
They were like
getting-
they were unprepared. They were
look.
overwhelmed. They were just.
Here's what the point I'm getting at. All right, let's break it down Barney style, like the Army says. Right, 8th grade reading level. Let's break it down.
Let's go third
Right?
grade for
I was
everybody
gonna- I was
else.
gonna
Third
say
grade.
it's above me.
Right, we'll go 3rd grade. Right. What I am getting at here, the point I am pushing is, we're talking all these different techniques, gun control, preferences, all this stuff, right?
Right.
I run a freaking competition every 3 months that I have to task individuals to come teach enablers proper trigger squeeze, sight picture, all this stuff.
Well,
right?
yeah,
Your
it's because a
base-
lot
no,
of them don't get that.
Your
A lot of the enablers don't get those basics.
ranges and all this stuff. Weapon care.
Yeah, we're on the cleaning.
What do you got for weapons care there, Jackson?
Oh, we're going down. You know, I grew up when I think I was grown before I joined the Army. The Army just molded me into something else. I don't like the whole mentality of I grew up in this phase of the military. But like when I first joined, it was the white glove inspection stuff. And you know, as I took the time to learn more about weapons themselves, I've learned that they're meant to be. It can get swung. There's this perfect medium, I think, where if you're I'll go with this. The point that I got to as an NCO was when my guys would ask if their weapon was clean, the first response I'd give them is, if we got in a gunfight right now, would you trust it? And if they said no, then I'd be like, well, then keep on cleaning. And if they said yes, then I'd check it, and I'd be like, well, you're wrong, or
Agreed.
you're right, and I'd go with that. And I think that's the one question that you gotta ask yourself when cleaning any type of weapon is, do I trust this to function the way it's supposed to perform when I need it the most? Whether it's hunting, protecting yourself, being in the military and getting a gunfight, if you can answer that one question, then it's clean enough.
So
I think
Totally
you
agree.
rely on people who have been there and done that to teach you that.
do you have anything to add or caveat on that, Trey?
A little bit. So
Oh.
But it's not really a caveat. It's pretty much saying the same thing. I shoot my
Yeah.
guns until something goes wrong. And when something is
Mhm.
unpredictable or unexpected, then it's like, okay, what's going on? But generally speaking, it's very little. I mean, I shoot polymer pistols and bolt guns and ARs, and generally speaking, they're pretty resilient. So that's kind of how it goes.
Mhm.
So,
But
so you guys don't clean it after every shooting.
absolutely not.
That's like one
No,
of those things that
absolutely
the
not.
Army beat into people's brains of like, after you go to the gun range, you need to make this thing white glove inspected, clean. That's unnecessary as fuck.
That's dumb.
In my opinion, they're more
I'd
like
say-
a cast iron,
not saying unnecessary, it's
cast
dumb.
iron pan.
Yes,
They
and
need-
I
they
agree
need
with that.
seasoning.
Because I do that with my own firearms. Is that I will go
I
and
wish
I
I
will
had that analogy.
yeah
Cast irons.
because you got to season it. You know what I mean? Because I know every
Yeah.
time I go out to shoot, it's predictable. Like you were saying, if I am shooting and all of a sudden now there's an anomaly, okay, what is going on? Is there too much fouling in my gun? Is there too much whatever is affecting the projectile that I'm putting through this weapon? Or is it something mechanical? My finger, my grip, my arm, my stance.
Unfortunately, I feel like we can bring physics into this a little bit more. So,
as far as
Mhm.
which part of physics?
right. So
We talking
we've
about
got-
the
we've got-
Coriolis effect? Or are we
No,
talking
no,
about?
we've got metal and we've got oil. Metal is porous. Oil goes into porous things.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And when you put those two things
Mhm.
together, how do you get it to operate well? You get them warm, then they open up their pores, seeps in,
Right.
then it starts operating. So
Through friction.
the-
Yeah.
exactly. So we get a little heat, we get a little whatever, and then it's like we talked about a cast iron. It's seasoned. So
All right,
those,
all
those
right.
things need to happen,
I
in my
have,
opinion.
I have
I
to
think there's such a
caveat.
thing as over lubricating.
There is such a thing. I agree with
I
There's
you.
such
agree
a
with
thing as
that because if you
over-lubricating.
over lubricate a cast iron skillet, it does not take the oil. It
All
I
does
right.
don't
not
like to
take
breathe
it.
oil.
It
Yeah.
doesn't take it. But I have to,
What collects
and I don't even
debris?
want to say necessarily
does collect
caveat,
debris,
but
yeah.
I have to add more validity to what
To what
Trey
we're saying.
said
Yeah.
on the cast iron. One of the things, and this is, I literally
Considering
had
I
a,
cook on a cast iron
I
every
literally had
goddamn
a
day.
moment. No, I had a moment of like my pappy reincarnate in Trey when he brought up the equivalent of a cast iron
Mhm.
skillet. Like for instance, my pappy when I got a little older, one of the first guns I ever hunted with was a 303.
Never heard of one.
It's British.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 303. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So how he got it, I don't know. Don't care. He had one, right? And it was a thing where we shot till I couldn't shoot anymore,
Hmm.
right? Okay, cool. You can't shoot anymore for the day? Cool. We'll come back out in another day or two and we'll shoot more. And I would shoot until some malfunction happened.
Yeah.
And then it's okay, now let's see why that actual malfunction happened.
Mm.
Right? And his big thing was we're not cleaning it till I have that malfunction to determine if the malfunction is based off what my shooting did or if it is the weapon system itself.
There's only 8 things in the cycle of operations.
And what are those?
Yep. Feeding, chambering, firing, unchambering, extracting, ejecting, and cocking.
He's got
Like
it.
the man said.
Hallelujah.
Like the man
Jesus
said.
Christ. Hey, when you guys are at the gun range, when you're sighting in your weapons, what is for your pistols versus your long guns? What is your preferred range when you're doing that, and why?
Jackson, do you want to go with this one? Because mine is a little bit long-winded, so I don't know if you want to take this and give it your direction, or if you want me to.
Yeah,
go
I'll give
long-winded.
layman's terms. I'll give the
Oh.
the infantry layman's
Oh,
terms.
you said
real
that I'm a
quick.
dummy. Okay, gotcha.
Layman's terms.
No, I said you're smarter than I am. Layman's is my term of I'm gonna go with the quick and gritty one.
The down
and
and
then you're gonna
dirty.
go with
The
the
down
more
and
explained one.
down and dirty.
Yeah, I'm gonna explain the how. You're gonna explain the why.
Yes, sir.
If that makes sense. Anyways, with pistols, I like starting super short range, like 5 to 7 meters, just because it's such a short barrel that your deviations are going to be seen way clearer at a really short range.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll push out to 25 meters because within that, especially for civilians, that's generally what you're going to engage pistols with. And long guns, I think it's the same thing, but at a longer distance. You know, the infantry, I'll go with what I know. The infantry is really good at figuring out the with a 14.5 inch barrel at 25 meters, you're going to intersect with 300 meters for your arc of your barrel and with your optic. So I always stick with 25 meters, and then I go ahead and I confirm at 100 to 150 meters,
Okay.
and then shoot from there.
So height over
But that's
bore
always
does
with like a
when you're optic, whatever optic it is that you have, do you guys factor in your height over bore for that?
yeah.
So for those that are listening, height over bore is a mathematical measurement that you're going to take based on where your reticle resides versus where the bore projectile will exit out the bore, and you have to take that into account when you shoot a target, whether it be paper, person, animal, doesn't matter. You need to make sure that you understand that dimensional difference. And so when you're doing this, are you using iron sights, optics? Does it matter? Are you just continually doing that repetitively, whether it's 25 meters, 300 meters, or otherwise?
I think it goes back to one, knowing your gun, like doing the research. A lot of people listen to the internet, and there's a lot of good things on the internet, and there's a lot of dumb things on the internet. I think that you have to really do your due diligence to know your gun, because my 30-30 shoots way different than my AR-15.
Well,
So,
because that's just
and
difference
the
of
iron
projectile
sights work
energy.
different.
So that's
Yeah.
different.
So I think first step is do your due diligence and the gun that you're shooting and what you're working with, and know your tool. That's the same as like using different types of saws or any tool. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you don't know that tool and what it's meant for and how it's used or designed to be implemented, and then you go and just try willy nilly it, you're probably setting yourself up for failure 9 times out of 10.
I agree.
So I think ultimately it comes down to go ahead and figure out what, one, if you're even shopping for a gun, what your needs are, and then you buy within what your needs are, and then two, you learn the inside and out of that mechanism of how it functions, and then you also learn the ballistics of it.
Okay.
And then once you learn the ballistics of it, because I can, and Trey could probably school me up for counting minutes of angle and all this other crazy stuff that I know we're going to segue into later. But when it comes down to a 14.5 AR-15 and a 62 grain 5.56, I can spit it out of the back of my head until I'm probably almost dead in my grave of how it's going to shoot, because that's what they tell you to learn.
So
Same
what
thing
is
with
the muzzle
240s.
velocity?
I could go with
What is the muzzle velocity of
a 14.5 with a 2,970 feet per second with a 62 or 62
and what is
grain
the
5.56
what is
out
the
of a
effective
14.5 barrel.
range of that?
600.
Point target or area target?
Say again.
600.
Yeah,
600 meters,
600
yards, something
generally
like that.
speaking. Anywhere from 500 to 600.
Yeah, but that has qualifications
Five-
because like
500
a 62
yards
grain,
for-
So
point-
it
100
depends
yards
on where
per
you're at
target.
and where the
Yeah.
heat and everything. And like I said, the Coriolis effect, right? So it
No.
depends on.
yes, that
Well,
exists.
it's science.
It does
That
exist.
it does exist, but like even if we're gonna go back to like height over bore type stuff, height over bore is one of the minuscule things that goes into it. Same thing. Muzzle velocity is a bigger one, and density altitude, which would be temperature and altitude,
Yep.
are more important than height over bore.
Right. So say we're in Africa, right? And I'm in the Sahara Desert, and I am trying to sight in a target that is 1 mile away.
Mm-hmm.
versus I'm in the mountains of Uzbekistan and I'm shooting at a target that is also a mile away. So now we have cold versus hot, altitude differences. How does that affect how you decide to shoot?
So at a mile, there's a lot of luck anyway.
You're right.
You got a mile worth of wind.
You're right. I got that.
Yep. So
okay, let's shorten it. Let's shorten that range.
It would be like maybe let's call it a mil in either direction, or let's call it.
Let's shorten that.
There's like 16 minutes of angle. Call it that.
Okay, let's shorten that. Let's go 300 meters. Let's go 300 meters.
You guys mind if I ask you a question?
No, go for it.
So the question would be, what do you think you are capable of if you had either, like, let's call it a 308, 6.5 Creedmoor, whatever. What is the range that you think that you would be able to make a shot into somebody's nose? And then we can also do it for a Magnum. So some version of 300 Win Mag, Norma Mag, short action Magnum, whatever it is you want to call. So
where are we at?
At what range? It doesn't matter.
It does. It does matter.
Okay.
I could say out
let's
to
say we're in
400
Tennessee.
meters, I could probably say
Let's stick with Tennessee.
400 meters.
I totally agree with you.
400
And that's what JSOC agrees.
I know
with.
I could put it in somebody's nose.
You know what I was gonna say? For me, somewhere between.
I would say
200 and
300 meters for me.
So
somewhere for me.
308,
between 200
6.5
and
Creed,
300
we're
meters.
talking like 250, 300.
Yep.
Yeah.
If we're talking a Magnum, we're talking like 400.
Right.
Now-
But it also does, it still does depend because of the barometric pressure and everything else that you have to calculate into that round, right? And this is where the nerd comes in. As a gun enthusiast, knowing that wind speed, barometric pressure, altitude, density, everything else comes into like the factoring there.
Agreed.
And so if you have the knowledge of what those variables are for your environment, then you can precisely dial in that weapon system to take out your target effectively.
Agreed.
And then if
Well, that's the science of snipers versus a regular rifleman. I mean,
Exactly.
disagree with me if I'm wrong, Trey.
Like, let's take.
and
me,
I
for
agree with
instance.
that.
Let's take me for instance. If I don't have the training Trey has,
Okay.
I'm not doing the shooting Trey has.
And that's why I want to go shooting with Trey because I want
to be
to.
silly about this.
Yes, let's get silly. Let's get silly.
So the interesting thing about this, what happens if the target is further away? What do?
You have to adjust.
Which direction?
Depends.
You're right. Let's say you have to go over. What do? Go over?
You have to adjust that windage.
Exactly. So all of what
let's
we
say
do
we're
is
gonna
have
say the target.
predictable
Where is the
conductive
target?
range.
Let's say the target's 300 meters, right?
Yep.
And I shoot and it hits in the dirt.
Hold higher.
Hold higher, right?
Like all of what we
That's
do
is
is
normal
Kentucky
mathematical
windage with a ruler.
right.
That's it. It's
So
like not even
all of us that have shotguns and understand this, like it's physics.
Yep.
And we all know when we're pulling a trigger and we send a projectile downrange, wherever that downrange might be, it might be into a deer, it might be into a fucking paper target, it might be into a person. Doesn't matter. The end result is still knowing where your projectile is going to end up.
100%.
And so
It's all theory, though.
it is.
It is theory.
It's all
It
theory.
is theory, but it's theory and practice, which makes it a principle. So
Yes.
Would you agree with that, Trey?
it's pretty predictable.
it is predictable, which makes it a principle.
However, comma.
However,
comma. Last week I went out to,
Pause for dramatic effect.
yeah, big
Pause.
time. So I thought
Well,
I thought I knew a bunch of stuff. I mean, I've been doing this for 15, call it 16 years, pretty much. And I went out to Idaho last week, and I have never experienced a vertical shift in impact like I experienced there, just based off of cross canyon stuff.
Right. So there.
So I'm looking down this thing, and I'm like, I got it. I see all the effects. that say that I need to do X, Y, Z.
Right.
Send it opposite of that. And I
Okay.
say, okay, now all I have to do is adjust to whatever I saw and do it, and it worked. But it's absolute opposite of what we see.
So that's the importance of downrange observers,
How
right?
does-
Because downrange observers, like when you have,
It's really yourself, to be honest.
but if you have a downrange observer,
I'm
they can
curious,
they
though.
can give you real time feedback and tell you like,
Yeah.
hey, by the way,
Whether it's you or
once
somebody
you
else.
hit this range, you have a differential of temperature, you have a differential wind, you have all these differentials that all of a sudden you have to equate into that mathematical equation that you're doing real time in your brain. You're like, okay, I know the bullet's going to do this. It's going to hit this area where there's a drop in barometric pressure. There's a crosswind that I didn't realize was there of 20 mile fucking an hour in this weird valley that I'm shooting across. Now as soon as I eject that area, now it's going back to another elevation change, which done again changes the barometric pressure and shifts that point of impact again, maybe a quarter inch to the right. Okay, that's the importance, I think, of having somebody that's downrange from where you are as the shooter to give you real time. Or am I wrong?
So
I'm curious with Trey in the sense of what did he definitely change things for not just SF dudes but infantry dudes overseas, and particularly like a place like Afghanistan where you're dealing with similar terrain.
Mm-hmm. That's where I was going with this.
Jackson, can you throw that question one more time just because I'm a dumb?
You're not dumb.
Yeah, I'll have it done too. Let's see if I can repeat it. So, what did you learn out in Idaho that was different than what you'd previously known that you think could have exponentially changed how people shot in high range environments or high altitude environments like Afghanistan was? Like, I'm really curious to that because we did a lot of factoring in with elevation change and all of that good jazz, but it's from the sounds of it, with your experience and the things that you learned, there's more to it that could have been implemented that would have made these a lot more effective over there.
So, unfortunately, I think that I'm going to disagree with you on the end of it that says that they will be more effective. Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe they would have some understanding so they
I'm
could,
totally okay.
yeah, so they could probably gain some experience and then through that be more effective.
Yeah.
But it's not rocket surgery at all. Heads up, tails down. So if you're in a headwind, you have to hold over. If you're in a tailwind, you have to hold under. And that's just elevation stuff. What Dan was talking about as far as like barometric pressure and temperatures and all that stuff, they do cause an effect on stuff, but they're fairly light, to be honest.
Okay.
So they have less effect than you think they do.
All right. No, that's good.
Yep. So essentially, once you get once you get a decent zero and a decent muzzle velocity, you can be off some. And this kind of follows into like the previous topic that we were kind of hitting on was how do you be more effective as a something? Essentially, you mess with that zero range, right? So I've got a particular bullet. I've got a 77 grain bullet. It's going XYZ miles an hour or feet per second. If I want it to line up with my Vortex BDC, I just change the zero range.
So is that cold bore?
Oh, okay.
Because here's a good question, right? Because everyone talks about cold bore, right?
It's a thing.
It is a thing because after you've fired,
it's almost
probably like
more of
400, 500 rounds.
Bore,
it's an exponentially amount of rounds that you fire through a barrel before it finally heats up to affect that impact.
So that's a speed thing. So it's a muzzle velocity thing. So there's a certain it's all heat and pressure, which makes sense. But that is a kind of a speed thing. So metal is really tight when it comes off the press, and then through a little bit of heat and pressure, it changes a little bit, and the metal wears away some, and so then that changes the velocity that it exits the barrel.
Mm. So say you've fired 10,000 rounds for this whatever barrel. Say it's a Remington 700, just for example.
That barrel's probably done.
So you should get a new barrel.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we're talking about a 308, you might make it to 10,000 rounds.
Oh.
Yeah, if we're talking 5.56, probably around 5,000 rounds.
Okay.
If we're talking like a 6 Creed
Yeah.
or something a little more specific, where it has a little bit more heat and pressure, a little bit more velocity, like in the 3,000 feet per second, we're talking more like 1,200 rounds.
Okay.
Or a Magnum, like a 300 Win Mag.
Okay.
Yep.
No, these are good. These are good things for like
Yep.
our listeners are gonna love this shit. This is nerd shit. They're gonna be like,
Yeah, I mean, you can get 10,000 rounds out of a 308, but
your
so-
effectiveness is gonna go down after that.
debatable, not 100%, but the way that and I just learned this in March of this year. The actual why to this
Mm-hmm.
is that so obviously with heat and pressure it changes metal, but that metal does some like cracking, and this is going to be in the throat area, and this area is where the bullet exits the case, doesn't touch the barrel, but enters the lands.
Oh, okay. So
Okay,
that's
so
the
it's
that's
called a
a
jump.
specific
That's a rifle.
area
Yep.
of the rifle.
Yep, it's called the jump.
So as
Right,
it
it's
jumps out of the barrel,
As it jumps out of the case
oh,
into the lands, which
Yeah.
are the rifling,
okay,
it doesn't touch
Yeah.
metal.
that's interesting.
Right. So as it gets in that
Huh.
area, so that area that is called the throat, that area, because of the heat and pressure, can get cracked. Those cracks leave different formations on the jacketing of the bullet.
God damn, that's sexy.
All right.
Huh.
So that
I got a
changes
hard
what
on
they-
thinking
what they-
about that.
that changes what they call the ballistic coefficient. The ballistic coefficient is
God.
essentially how
Yeah.
Yes, we
how
all
aerodynamic that thing is.
all us nerds know that.
Yeah.
And I say nerds, but I mean, gun enthusiasts.
I'm going to be honest. As much as I know guns and I know how the Kentucky windage and lick my finger and put it
Kentucky
in
windage
the
is a
air,
thing, man. I love it.
I gotta say, when Trey and Jackson talk, it's like instant. I'm just like, you know what? Just fucking keep talking. And then sometimes I'm like, Dan, just shut up and let him talk. Just
Yeah,
shut
no.
up and let him talk. You know,
Yeah,
I'm
no.
so close, and you ruin
So-
it every
I
time.
I can't take any credit for this. I mean, I was sitting in front of
My
Brian
next-
Litz, so I mean,
Yeah.
I can't take any credit for this.
Oh, it's good.
I
I
didn't
love
find it
this
out.
shit.
My
This shit
next
is good.
question is, I have for Trey. So like in the infantry, we talked about MOA a lot, and we got like the real basics of it, of like 1 minute of angle at 100 meters equals 1 inch. But like, could you really break it down from someone who one teaches it, and then two understands it probably a lot more than the average person, even somebody who shoots for a living, of what this minute of angle language equates to, so that people can understand it?
Well, probably not better than you just did. I mean, it's 1 inch per 100.
Oh, wow.
Generally
Shit.
generally
Nah,
speaking,
you
it's 1 inch
nailed
per
it.
100. However, what I would say is what I just learned last week is that even guys that are fairly decent at it, and let's just say I'm fairly decent at it, but I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
When you get into a version of a position that isn't something very stable, like zeroing in the prone or off of a bench, you're probably the best a 3-minute shooter. And we're talking about like some of the best shooters in the world. So at 100 meters, we're talking about a 3-inch group. And so if you want to apply that out to 500-600, so 500 we're talking 15 inches, 600 we're talking 18 inches, so if you want to try and classify yourself as a good shooter, if you can go anywhere under 3 minutes of angle at any version of range, you're probably crushing it.
I got a broner.
So you're saying with that, a lot of infantry dudes who probably the ones that really try to understand minute of angle and that aspect of shooting, they're probably way harder on themselves than they need to be. Is that what you're getting at?
No. How?
Because I used to beat myself up if I was outside of 2 to 3 minutes friend, I would start getting.
What is your
I'd
effective
understand that
range?
was
That's where we're
kinda the
going to
threshold
go
for
back to,
rifle.
right?
No, no. Unfortunately, what we got going on
Well,
with this one
I
is
guess, but
Jackson. So, unfortunately, the thing that the Army doesn't tell you is that the M4 or the M16 or whatever it is
Yeah.
that you're qualifying on is a 4 minute of angle
yeah.
requirement gun. The ammo that you're shooting is a 3 minute of
Oh,
angle requirement gun. And so when we get bullets touching, it's kind of a one off. And not only,
luck.
yep, kind of luck,
Luck.
but we hold ourselves to that standard. So it kind of depends on the equipment that we're
Yeah.
dealing with. And then at the other end of the spectrum, or not the other end, but it's hard to tell people. Actually, we don't even introduce it in the course because it gives space for excuses. Is that given any type of stuff? So let's call it the best gun in the world, the best shooter in the world, the best ammo in the world, all put them together. At any given point, there's a 30% dispersion just based on statistics. Right? So let's say
So even if I'm
Nice.
shooting out of a nice Macmillan stock, whatever fucking top of the line,
shoot 100 5-round groups and you're going to be 30% bigger or smaller.
god damn. And that's in a perfect
So is that
environment.
why
That's perfectly done.
What'd you
I-
say, Jackson?
I kind of have an idea, but like I want to know your aspect on it. Is that why the Army really went from a 3-shot group to a 5-shot group with your grouping and your zeroing on the M4 specifically?
To be honest, I don't know, bro.
Is that because
You know what I
you have
think
to
it is?
account for
I
the
think it- I think
speed?
it's-
I'm gonna interject
No,
on
this
that
is
one,
where
though,
I think
'cause
this is
I
a nerd.
teach-
No,
I teach
this is where I think
part.
this is a nerd thing because in nerd world, which I live in, 3 out of 5 is good.
No, it's not.
No, in nerd world, right? So when you have packets that are sent across a domain, they look for a 3 out of 5 and they say it's okay. So
the
shot group
questionably the best statistician cross what do you want to call it, like ballistics guy Brian Litz says 5-round groups are the standard.
Yeah,
That's what he says.
nah, it makes sense.
are the standard.
Is the
Okay.
standard.
Yeah.
5-round groups are the
I
standard.
think 5 is the best when you're doing metrics on anything.
Now don't get me
And
wrong.
you can multiply
I
that
was
when I'm
out.
super
zeroing my
happy.
gun, it doesn't take me 5 rounds to zero my gun.
No, it takes me 2.
I'm like, okay, I touched 2 bullets. Yeah, the gun's zeroed.
yeah.
It's done.
Usually it's
Yeah.
pretty close. And
We
I'm
don't
done.
even want to get into. We do
I
not.
just-
I'm gonna stop everybody. We do not want to get into the new zero and qual standard.
No,
of the U.S.
nobody
Army
gives
right
a fuck
now.
about that.
That is not a
I
conversation.
actually think it's pretty dope.
It
No.
is a good conversation to have, but it is not the conversation we want to have right now.
If we want to talk about anything, we want to talk about gun control.
And I want to hear Jackson's gun control.
Yeah, big time.
So, gun control to me
My version
is
of gun control is how tight you can keep your shot group.
I was saying the same
That's
thing
gun
as
control.
Jackson. Gun control to me is
Yeah,
how
it's-
close you can keep your shot group, and if you can't, then you should tighten your shot group.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
That sounds.
I mean,
so
if your rounds are
simple.
hitting where you want,
Because the Democrats
if
and
you're
the
around-
people that are in a position of power right now would say gun control is stealing your guns from you and making you weaker as a human being, so you can't.
oh, we're gonna go
afflict-
into this realm. We're
This is-
going down this
This is
rabbit
a this is a slight
This is a detour.
this is a slight detour, but I would say I will say this much: I am Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I approve this. We
When
are
you're
doing
coming-
this thing, and we are coming. We
When you're
are
pumping and you're coming.
every time I pump iron, I am coming. You know what I'm saying? Every time I shoot a round down the range, I am coming. But I would think that gun control is what we talked about before:
So
safety, shot group, and storage. That to me, that is what is the importance of gun control.
So
What
Trey,
they're trying to push today is not gun control;
So-
it is gun confiscation. But
Jackson believes Trey. So Trey Jackson believes obviously gun control is
Tight shot group.
tight shot group.
Yep.
Controlling where your shot group is. What do you
I have
see
a-
as
I have another
proper
opinion on
or
that too.
effective gun control?
Cool. So, there's two, or maybe you don't know, but either way, there's kind of two ones we can either talk about in the political realm,
I don't care which way you want to go with it.
or we can talk about it in the.
What do
in the other
you
realm.
see as effective gun control?
Well, whatever you want.
So
You go with
in
it.
in the political realm, people need guns to protect themselves against people that want to have or tyrants. So that's pretty much a done deal there. Now, when it comes to like individual gun control, I think that is an interesting topic because even, for example, my father, who I love to death, and he's probably more my friend now than he is anything else, which is wonderful. Not everybody has that relationship, and I do.
Congratulations. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
have that.
Yeah, no, it's a really, really cool thing. But
Mine's
so-
opposite. My
These-
cool friend is
these-
my mother.
There we
not my
go.
dad.
these things happen. I'm friends with my mom too. But either way, we get into it. My mom and I get into it pretty hard. Anyway,
Oh,
Re-
me and mine do too.
regardless of that, so one of the things that I noticed with whether it be civilians or let's say I just noticed it inside of my dad and like his friend group and everything else, they thought that being comfortable with guns meant that you were lax with the rules.
Okay.
And
what
in-
is your standpoint now?
when you
Ooh.
actually get around people that are good with guns, it's completely the opposite. If you work with people that are either tier 1 or somebody that actually knows how to control a gun, they're very, very strict about where their muzzle is, how they do it. They do it the same way every time. They do it by the numbers, everything else. It's not like
repeatable.
rack it and let it go or point it in a different direction that you don't know where it's going at. None of that stuff happens. So it's like, it's kind of a dichotomy where you're like, oh, I'm comfortable with guns, I'm happy with guns, but the people that do it either for a living or that do it well, they still do that, but they do it with a very, very precise by the numbers.
Okay.
I want a caveat on that. Right.
I'll-
so, and
I'll
hang on,
give it.
Jackson.
No, I want a caveat.
I do too.
Friend, I
Let
want to hit a
Jackson
middle
go.
ground with that though.
Go ahead, and then I'm going to caveat
Friend,
unless
so-
you kill my point.
So Trey, would you say that there are people? Let's set the parameters on a 25-meter flat range. You're zeroing M4s. Are there people you would be comfortable with walking down range and checking your target while they're still shooting?
100%.
I would say only if they're trained
I would agree.
people that
Fred.
I understand where they're coming from and they understand muzzle awareness and everything else. I would say that's when I
Yeah.
would be comfortable to walk down a range with them. Because if I'm in an open range,
I
like
would
say a normal conventional civilian range, I'm not going to trust anybody
you would
else
never do
on
it.
that
You don't
fucking
know
range
anybody
to
there.
walk down and like
If I don't
move
know
my
him, I'm
target.
good.
Yeah.
You don't know
Hell
anybody.
fucking no. I am not trusting you to make sure
Yeah.
you're not going to fucking shoot me in my butt cheek as I'm walking to get my target.
But see,
That's not going to be the thing.
But this is my caveat
I-
to both Jackson and Trey, right?
Mm,
Right, coming from my standpoint as the enabler, right?
mm.
I run enough ranges
boy.
and competitions, and I have enough GBs to come and instruct and do all this other stuff
Yeah.
for these enablers to enhance their abilities, right? That when I run ranges, I get people come up all the time. They're like, dude, your ranges are so much more chill and more people want to come to your ranges. And I'm like, it's because I have it to a standard because I have people like Trey
Great.
and like Jackson and like other individuals who
Yeah.
have taught me these things.
No,
to
that's
where
important.
I turn around and I use it to enhance
Right.
the force.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys. I
Yeah.
appreciate everybody being on here today. Jackson, you've been an amazing asset. Trey, I appreciate everything you brought today.
Appreciate you guys.
Ryan, you've had your own perspective on things.
Oh yeah, I've run my own little rabbit holes.
That wraps it up for us here at Bourbon Sauce. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. The more you like and the better you share with your friends, the bigger chances that we can grow the channel. The algorithm loves what you do. So, check us out on our Instagram page, www.instagram.com/bourbonsauce. where you can see clues on upcoming episodes as well as see photos that pertain to our podcast. And you can message us there and give feedback and real-time interaction with us and see what it is we're doing on a day-to-day. Hope you come back. Until next time, enjoy your favorite beverage and get sauced. Cheers.